Good evening and welcome to the St. Patrick's version of the Rules Committee meeting today, February 17th. I'd ask everybody to please join us in the pledge. March 17th, sorry. Legislator Gleason, would you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening again. I'd ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Legislator Elner.
Here.
Legislator Gouldman.
Present.
Chairman Birmingham.
Here. Thank you. Item number 3, Chairman's verbal report. Not much to report other than the agenda items we have today. I did speak with Director of Personnel Paul Eldridge. He's going to be joining us later this evening on an agenda item about the legislative manual. And we'll jump right into the agenda now. Item 4, acceptance of minutes from the October 8th, 2024 Rules Committee meeting. Is there any comment or anything? I'll make a motion to approve or to accept. Second by Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. With the committee's indulgence, I'd like to move around some of the agenda items. If we could, I think a lot of folks are here for item number 8, approval budgetary transfer to move the Putnam County Arts Council Community Grant funding from Subcontingency. I'd like to make a motion just to move that to the next item. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. All righty, we have before us item number 8, its approval of budgetary amendment to move $13,993,000 out of subcontingency back into the budget. And just as a way of background, the Putnam Arts Council is one of our county's outside agencies. We have funded over the past many years, decades actually, dozens of outside agencies. And we should all know that the outside agencies, they're performing a county service on the county, on behalf of the county. Whether it's the Putnam Arts Council, because a county purpose, one of the county purposes in the county law is culture and arts. And what we do is we retain outside agencies to perform some of those functions for us. And one of the programs that the Putnam Arts Council does for us is that they have a program that they do, and I'm going to let Joyce, actually Joyce, why don't you, I saw you here earlier, why don't you come on up and join us? Thank you.
This is Mary Beth Becker, our regrants coordinator.
Thank you.
The program. Hi. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. And could you tell us a little, I started to go into it, but you're a
Sure.
much better spokesperson for this than I am. Tell us a little bit about this particular program and what service you provide to the county taxpayers for this.
Okay, so what we do is we convene an independent panel that reviews applications that come into us, and the panel is made up of primarily Putnam County residents, and they do an assessment of the applications individually and in a group, and they assign numeric numbers to the assessments, and then we disseminate the funds. In 2023 and 2024, and this year, it's been the same amount, $13,993. I actually put 7 of my own dollars in so that it's a round number. This makes it easier. And we get, this year we got $90,000 worth of requests. So the state also gives us funds, so we put them together and we give out all of that money. We don't keep any of it. And if the minimum is 1,000, so with the most of grants we could give from the county are 14,
Okay.
right? So we try to spread it around the whole county, and we try to also do lots of different kinds of disciplines, so dance and music and theater and visual art if we can, so that the public has the most to be able to see. These are project-oriented grants. They're not institutional support.
Okay.
So
Could you describe a little bit of that distinction for us?
Sure, it's not general operating support.
Okay, good.
So it's project-oriented. The project has to take place in the county in the particular year of the application, and it has to be open to the public. Many of them are free of charge. Many of them, all of them are affordable. And so not only, they add enrichment, and they also support cultural tourism, so they bring in funds to the county as well. But primarily, they're for the residents. And we've been doing it I'm the director for 35 years. So we've been doing it longer than that, like 50?
1968, Putnam Arts Council has been distributing these grants.
Right.
That was the year I was born.
So there you go. It's not not a very old program. It's a very
Not a very old program.
Not a very old program, I like that, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's a youthful program, I guess.
It's a youthful
Yes, thank you.
program, yes. And basically, if you would use the number of 90,000 people residents, which is a low number, it's about 15 cents per taxpayer that you're supporting this program. And what happens with the applicants, and many of the recipients are here in the room, because the money is important to them. It helps them leverage other funds, because this is a prestigious award to receive. So maybe they can go to corporations or mom and pop shops and say, we're being supported by the county funds from the Putnam Arts Council or the state funds or whatever they might say, whichever it might apply, and that helps them to raise other dollars. So it is essential to these folks. I mean, if you guys want to raise your hands, whoever are recipients.
Oh, wow.
Well, I think as taxpayers, we could all raise our hands, because if we're able to go to these,
It is open to
Exactly.
everyone. I mean, 90,000 people don't attend, but they could if they wanted to, because they have to be open to the public. And for many years, we've spread the funds through almost every town. If we get an application from each town, we try to make sure the county money is dispersed across all the towns, because we're all taxpayers.
and some of the takeaways that I'm hearing from you is, and one of the most critical things I heard, is that these funds are specific to an event or a program.
Yes.
It's not to defray any sort of operating expenses
No,
No.
or any sort of, and more importantly, the Putnam Arts Council does this as a service to Putnam County taxpayers for free. In other words,
Yeah.
you use your own staff time to assemble the body of people that review these applications, and you are doing this on behalf of the county, because I saw Conrad here earlier. I don't want to put him on this, there he is. But, we have one of our deputy county attorneys here, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but one of the county purposes is arts and culture. That's right in the
Right.
county law. So we could hire a county employee, or have part of a county employee's time spent to do what you do,
Right.
with the concomitant salary and benefits that go along with that. But the Putnam Arts Council, very graciously for the last 56 years, has been doing it for us for free.
Yeah, and we're happy to do it, because these folks, it's essential to them. I mean, many of the projects are done by volunteers. So they might get some, if their programs are free, then the money, of course, is essential. And even if with ticket prices, it never covers it never covers their expense. And, they're wonderful people who do wonderful things and are deserving, I think, of county funds and state dollars as well.
And they themselves are doing county function as well by presenting these artistic,
Correct.
Whether
They
it's
are.
cultural or artistic.
They're doing things in their own backyard, making this county a better place to live.
Right.
More interesting conversations, or children learn all of the essentials that art for art's sake, that every time I come I talk about. But instead of that, maybe what I'll do is I'll mention a few of the projects that were funded, which included projects in last year, because we haven't
Right.
made the determinations yet for this year. Arts on the Lake received funding, Brewster Theater Company, Patterson Library, Hudson Valley Shakespeare, let's see, who else?
Tompkins Corners
Tompkins
Cultural
Corners
Center.
Cultural Center, excuse me, right. That's just 5 of the 12.
The libraries.
So,
yep,
yes,
sorry.
several of the libraries.
Several
Patterson Library received funds, Kent Library received funds, Putnam Valley Library. So,
Butterfield.
and also, the smaller organizations like Putnam, in Putnam Valley, Tompkins Corners is run by all volunteers, all of them, and they do amazing programs. Yeah, so, and that's indicative of Town of Southeast Cultural Arts Coalition, who has been a recipient for a long time as well. I know Elena's here, and she's a volunteer and manages, I don't know how they do it, really, on a shoestring budget. So I would be hard pressed to tell them that they weren't going to be getting funding for whatever reason, which I don't understand.
Two mechanical things I'd like to go through now. You were kind enough to join us at this meeting last month where we were talking about that bucket of $71,000. And that is an amount that was put into subcontingency based on a little bit of this money and also the more general outside agency funds. There was originally a pool of $75,000.
Right.
That was reduced by some, again, I wasn't on the board last year, so I'm just trying to remember. Some more money was given out of that $75,000 to the libraries, and that brought it down to a certain amount, but this $13,900 was also put in that bucket. I just want to make clear that this $13,900, no one else has a claim to this. It's not like we're taking it out of the we are taking it out of the $71,000 bucket, but this money was put in specifically in subcontingency for the Arts Council. So the conversation we had last month, there was, perhaps on my part, some confusion that how are we supposed to split up the $71,000 among.
Yeah, Amy made the point that it was
Yes.
sort of earmarked for
Right.
for that, and as did Nancy. So that was my understanding.
Yes, and that's come to be my understanding
Okay.
at this meeting too, which
Okay.
is comforting. So that's just the first point I wanted to bring up. And what I'd like to do is maybe turn it over to my colleagues on the committee first.
Sure.
And then maybe open it up to the legislators. And of course, we have a lot of public here, and at our committee meetings, we always welcome public input. So would any of my colleagues on the committee like to speak?
You want to go first?
Look, I'm the one who put this money in subcontingency, and I don't have a problem with almost every one of I don't have a problem with any of the organizations on your list. Where my problem came is after you gave the money to those organizations, one organization in particular gave money for an event. But that organization, in their other functions, had something here at the courthouse which ended up in our deputies being spit on, and it was a nasty protest. And I don't feel that organization, as I told you previously, Joyce, you're gonna get your money.
Yes,
I've been
you
looking
did.
for a mechanism to limit that one re-grant. And unfortunately, no one's been able to give me that mechanism.
Yeah,
But that's what this is about for me.
okay.
Full support of the arts.
Yep,
The problem is, once you give the money to these worthwhile organizations,
right.
yes, it's event-oriented, but how can you say, well, if I didn't fund this event, that it wouldn't be used for someplace else? And like I said,
because we
I'm
have-
on one, that's just my problem. And
Well, I understand,
yeah.
but we have a legal contract with them that a lawyer has drawn up that specifies when the project is, what the project is. Then they have to submit reports to us, then we audit. So it's not like we just hand them the money and they pay their electric bill or they do some other thing with it. They have to do specifically what they were contracted to do, or the money has to come back to us. And we have gotten money back from the powwow, for example, when it rained one time. So they felt as though they could only do half their project, one of the 2-day weekend days, and they were very good and they gave us back the money. And we've asked for money back from people who weren't able to do their projects too. So what was funded there was an African drumming event at Black History Month celebration at Veterans Park. And it happened actually before the incident, I believe, that you're referring to. And the person had been paid.
Yes,
correct?
they were paid in advance of the event that you're describing that happened. So,
Yeah, but we're going forward in the future,
but going forward in the future, what is your concern? How would we restrict
The money's
giving
not-
funds to a nonprofit organization?
We can't.
That we can't. We can only restrict what they use our funds that we give them.
I might have a compromise. I think I might have a compromise.
Okay.
Would it be helpful to, again, because you're doing this as a volunteer for the county, we appreciate that. Would it be helpful, because this is the second point I wanted to bring up with respect to mechanics. This is only the first step tonight in this process.
Right.
What we're doing is simply moving money out of subcontingency into the budget. You don't even know, I'm sure, which organizations might be eligible for this in the grant process, because that's the second step.
That's the second step.
Right.
And then we come back to you
Right.
with the recommendations that you have to approve.
Yes.
So that there might be room for you to not approve something if that's how you felt about it.
Would it also be helpful to you if in that resolution, that second resolution, we put some language in, again, I'm gonna work with our law department on this, some language in there that specifically restricts the use of the money, and I know
Yeah.
it's implicit already, I know, but perhaps maybe in bold letters
Sure.
or something that might say, again, make your job easier. Hey, guys, you got this money, whether it's the, ABC organization to do this XYZ program, you can only use this $1,000 of Putnam County taxpayer monies for this project.
Express purpose.
Express purpose. If that's in our resolution, would that give you more of a?
Yeah, certainly that's what's in our,
That's what's in our guidelines
Okay.
right
And
now.
our
But-
also contract, but
Okay.
certainly it wouldn't
Would that-
hurt,
would
no,
belts and
that would not
suspenders?
be an issue for us.
Would that be something that, I mean, again, I'm not gonna put them on the spot here in open session, but I think that's something this committee might wanna discuss with our law department to see what kind of language to specifically, because these are taxpayer funds.
Yeah.
And if we could restrict the use of them to the specific programs, as it has been in the past.
They
but-
are restricted
Yeah,
too.
it has
If you
been,
wanted to put your stamp on it in that way
Yeah.
too, that wouldn't be a problem, but, so moving forward, would you wanna be in a position to say, oh no, this one isn't going to be approved?
I mean,
Yeah.
you
Well,
already did
well,
approve.
we already have that power,
They
I
have that
thought.
privilege
Yeah.
and
You
they
have
did
that
approve.
privilege, but what I'm saying is it's a difficult position to be in, which is for us, we can't say, we can't take your application because it's open.
Oh, well, I don't envision any pre-clearance from us, no. I
Okay.
wouldn't think that would be fair, just because I'm the last guy you'd want to talk to about arts. I mean, I'm not,
No, but it's an awkward position,
Yeah.
but certainly you can be certain that we do not fund the workings of an organization, whatever else they do, only the specific project
Right.
that the panel feels would benefit the community.
Right.
And they're all just project oriented. Now, some people have several performances within their project.
Sure.
But none of it is institutional support,
Good,
no.
great, I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Greg.
That's fine, but I understand, I agree, and I sympathize. But what's not to say that we're just not taking money from the right hand to the left hand? If you didn't fund the institutional support, then that money wouldn't necessarily be there for their daily operations. I mean, the money's not fungible. We can't trace any penny that we give you and goes through. That's the problem. So that's why I was saying we're looking for a mechanism.
But we do trace it.
We do trace it.
Yeah.
No, but
We
once
have
you give
record-
it, once you give it to someone else, and they in turn give it to another organization, they're gonna write a check based on this event. But who's to say if they weren't funded that that money would not have been used elsewhere?
Because they have to report to us, and if they're using it elsewhere, and we audit them, we go and actually see the events.
see
No,
what
what I'm
they-
saying
we
is if
see
you
what we
never
want.
gave them that money, then they would have to take money from something else.
Or they wouldn't do the project.
As it is right now, many of our organizations have to front the money themselves because they're waiting on county money. County money is distributed twice, so the average grant of
They get
$1,000, they'll get $500 in
First.
April or May
Right,
when
so
the county approves it. And then they get another one after July, sometime after
after
July.
we get their interim report verifying that they're doing with the money what they said they would do. So that's,
So
That's-
we're
How
pretty
much staff
clear
time
on
is
how
that?
that money
What?
is being spent.
How
it's
much-
a
how
lot
much
of staff
is
time.
that?
It's a lot of staff time,
Okay.
yeah. Her time and my time.
Yeah. And
But
so,
we feel it has value, so, it's part of our mission to encourage and promote the arts throughout the county.
and these groups are really monitored quite a bit. We demand a final report from them or they're not eligible for funding in the
The
future.
next round.
For the next round,
We're
they
pretty
can't get it.
strict.
We're quite strict. Lateness is a really critical thing. If they're late we can't accept, though we want to accept a proposal, we may not be able to. We have auditors that come to those performances and say, what were the circumstances of the,
What was the
Of
audience
the- what
comprised
was the
of?
audience
Did they give
comprised
the
of?
funding credit?
Yeah, did they give, how many times I've had to call up people and say, I don't see your funding credit, acknowledging the county. You're also required to stand up in front of your audience and thank the county for this funding.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of,
Bells
they
and
have a
whistles.
lot of hoops they have to jump through already to get this funding. It's not a lot of money. They usually have to try to raise that money elsewhere from other sources.
No, it's never their entire,
It isn't.
No. Like, for example, this $1,000 that we're talking about for the African drummer, he took less money.
He took less
than
money.
he generally does because he wanted to be part of the celebration of Black History Day. And so, you know, so,
And here's another example, just to give you an idea of sometimes how difficult it is for our arts organizations throughout the county. An arts organization like Hudson Valley Shakespeare, okay, they're up and coming. They got $15 million grant to build a building, right? But that disqualifies them from getting state funding for public programming for people in Putnam County. The only resource they can get is Putnam County funding. So if Putnam County is only gonna give $14,993, and we'd like to fund their playwriting program, which serves the community, and they go to every little public library, and people come in and they write their scripts, and then they entertain the community. That's a tough one for us to fund, because we're trying to parcel out a little bit of money to everybody
Throughout the
across
community.
Putnam County. So maybe that one we might have a little trouble, because we might not have enough money to spread it around, and that goes for a lot of groups. We had groups that went to get a grant from the state, and it's like a roulette wheel for them, because they want to get the state promises $10,000 if you apply. But if you don't get that $10,000 grant from the state, then you are not eligible to get statewide community re-grant funding from the county, which is what we're providing statewide money.
even if you're rejected.
Even if you're rejected. I can't tell you how many laudable groups were rejected, and we're trying to cover for them with county money. And we don't have a whole lot to go around. And I think the hardest thing for us is to see that we're seeing things that are making a difference in people's lives in each of these communities. And every community is a little different. Some may be dealing with they have a larger senior population, which we have throughout the county.
Teens.
Or there are
Patterson
others
is
doing
teens
things for
projects.
teens, Project Teen Theater, another one, Kids Theater. We try to get our panelists to have a variety of backgrounds so that they can guide us too on what they think communities need.
We have two dance applications.
Two dance applications,
theater
and we
team programs.
really, we're pressed.
So for us, it
already.
isn't entertainment, it's enrichment.
Yeah.
And we do spend a lot of time, which we don't mind, and we don't complain about, and we're happy to do. But we do see it as a service.
I just want to see if Bill or,
Oh, sure.
Bill, you have anything? You're next.
Are all of the organizations all the organizations you grant to are charities, correct?
They all have to be 501c3s, and their 501c3 has to be in Putnam, registered in Putnam
Okay.
County.
The re-grantor, must they also,
No,
that
But
may
they-
be,
but
that
it-
may be the solution.
but the person
What do
who's
you
the
mean?
applicant.
The re-grantor must be a nonprofit as
No,
well.
she's talking about the artist. So if an artist.
No, not the artist,
No.
when you're giving to an organization, an individual
give
No,
to
they
an
all
artist.
have to be
organization that
501c3s.
Yeah,
So they all-
everybody they give.
that's
Everybody.
Yeah, so they're
Everybody.
already.
No, so you're giving to a charity, a 501, charitable
Yes.
organization, 501c3.
Right.
Now, they've received your money.
Right.
They choose to
They have to
To-
use it
to
for the project
re-grant
they
to
applied
say-
for.
they
No, they
choose,
can't re-grant it.
No,
They
They
pay
can't
for a
re-grant it.
project
They
that's
paid for
going
a
to happen.
specific thing.
Yeah.
They signed a contract. They told us, African drummer, pay for it.
Yeah, the
That's
date
what,
and,
the
yeah.
date and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't, I think if I could, I think the confusion comes in is what I phrase as the what you're describing, I think the second
Second
generation. That has nothing to do with this program.
No.
If the African
No.
drummer wasn't performing, that money would have come back to you.
Yes, correct.
When we talk about re-grant, you're the re-grantor
Yes, we are.
to the agency, to the
Yes.
501c3.
Mhm.
If the 501c3 happens to pay their phone bill to AT&T, that's
Mm-hmm.
not a 501c3 organization. We can't, I don't think it's possible for us to, or nor should we, be in the business of trying to figure out, you know, what these organizations are spending their other money on, because then it's gonna be a rabbit's hole of, I mean, we're granting money to you. You know, tonight, we're going ahead and considering this to bring it back
Right.
into the budget. Then you're gonna come back to us and come up with 14 or 12 or whatever of specific programs or events that we
Correct.
again have to pass
Yes,
judgment.
you do.
Approve.
You
And
have
then-
to in rules, and then it has to go to the
Right.
full legislature, and we spell out what the projects are, who the applicant is, where the applicant is located.
Right.
So you get all of that information, and I send you a letter giving you the process of exactly each of the steps of what we do each time of that it comes around to where we're asking you to take a look at the funding and make the approvals. And we give you a list of the panelists and,
Yeah.
you know, an overview of the program.
And that's the re-grant right there.
Mhm.
And you guys
Yeah.
audit it, and you're tough.
We do.
And you come back.
We are pretty tough.
We're tough, we're tough.
You can ask them.
Ask them.
Nancy, I'm sorry, you had your hand up for quite a while. Thank you.
If I may ask.
Of course, sure.
Joyce and Mary Beth, historically, when do you guys usually, put this panel together to take applications?
Historically, it's December and January.
So we're December, January, February, March, we're 4 months out of these organizations not being able to do their calendar for the year. Most theaters I know, because I try to book
Yes.
shows, are booked through the end of the year. I can't get a date, you know, for a theater booking till the end of the year.
Yeah, they're
So-
calling and asking us if they're
So
going to be getting
these
funding.
organizations are waiting for this money, and this is $13,993. I saw the county and the legislature approve, and I'm really sorry, you know, way more money than that for bar fixtures
Yeah.
at our bar. I saw us spend $40,000 on a witch hunt investigation study into the sheriff's department that just sat on a shelf. We didn't do anything with it. So I'm very sorry that this is, I mean,
Thank you.
we know that you award these to 12 organizations that work tirelessly
Right.
for providing resources for the county. It's anywhere from $800 to $1,500 per organizations. I book shows, I know usually it costs maybe 10 times that
Yeah.
to put on a show. Every year I'm really grateful that you guys come to us and we can hear about the work that you do. I know that,
I know you want us to push for more. I understand.
yeah, I know that, you know,
I know
we-
you do. I understand.
I think we should all come out and see what you're talking
Yeah.
about, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm
I
quite
think you
aware
should.
of. I think we should, and then we'd have a better understanding of
Exactly.
what you do. I know way back when we were first talking about this, my research showed that nationwide, the arts inject about actually, in Putnam alone, the arts inject over $6 million into the Putnam economy. They also contribute directly to our economy through employee salaries. We generate, the individuals spend that in the region, that money that they get, or they pay rent, they pay their mortgages, they insure their holdings. They hire contractors. We've
Right.
had to hire so many contractors for our Falling Apart Theater. We advertise events and buy office supplies, and dollars are invested directly here into Putnam. The volunteerism and the service that goes into the arts alone make up the wonderful community that the
Yeah.
Putnam County is. And I've said year after year, I'd like to see more, as you know. But, you know, as you can see, the overall return to our community is far greater than this $13,993.
It's 8 times that, generally speaking.
And I'm really
multipliers.
sorry that this is the 4th time you've come to this legislature to talk about this $13,000.
Well, I'll keep coming.
I know, and I'm happy to see, and
Yeah.
I support you,
Yeah.
and I love your work, and thank you for all you bring into the
These are the
community.
people that really need the thanks. They really are, so I give them a little round.
Yeah.
Well, we thank you. Because they do the good work.
I don't think we understand, because I can hear the same questions being asked, and you explaining it again and again, and it's, for some reason, it's not understood. You know, there's always some mishap somewhere in any organization. There's only, you know, always maybe one bad apple, you know, in a group, and we can't hold a whole community accountable for that one action.
Agreed.
And that's sort of unforgivable that we're doing that since December here. We're holding these organizations up.
Thank you. Any other legislator want to comment on this? No? Okay. This is our committee meeting, so we, of course, always welcome public comment on an agenda item by agenda item basis. Would anybody in the public like to speak on this? Sir, please join us. If you wouldn't mind stating your name and the town you live in.
Yes, podium?
Please. Welcome.
Thank you for letting me speak. I have a problem with this.
Okay.
We're at a time where working families are having a hard time supporting their children. Eggs are at incredibly high prices, gasoline is high. People are having a hard time, especially people, young families with small children, having a hard time supporting their families. You have a significant number of elderly people that are on fixed incomes, where every penny counts with them. You have people leaving this county because they cannot afford to live here, and to be giving money to something as, I don't want to use the word frivolous, but not non-essential as this, I think is spitting in the face of the taxpayers of this county, particularly those people that are supporting their young families and elderly people that are having a hard time paying these exorbitantly high taxes, to frivolously give money away, or flippantly giving money away, regardless of even if some of these programs are good, that I might possibly support. I believe they should be supported with private funds. They should ask for donations. They should have, there's a number of private organizations in this county that are funded completely with donated money to do this, especially at a time when the county is trying to reduce taxes. I saw a headline in a local paper that they said they're trying, I guess it was the county executive, saying we're trying to reduce taxes. Well, this is not consistent with that mentality of reducing taxes. This is actually an affront to the taxpayers of this county, particularly for poor working people and retired people. This is an affront. These things should be funded with private monies. They should go out and ask for donations from various individuals, not sucking at the public trough and sucking up the money, the limited funds of our tax dollars. The other thing that Mr. Elner brought up, if they are giving money to organizations that are diametrically opposed to the values and the people of this county, this is a further outrage. Mr. Elner pointed out that one of these groups that they gave money to was spitting on police officers or sheriff's deputies at a demonstration. I was also told that one of these groups that they funded with our tax money was in front of the historic courthouse demonstrating against America, calling America a terrorist state, calling Israel a terrorist state, which apparently is an anti-Semitic organization, which I take affront to, that we would be giving money to such an organization. I think this is an outrage. And I've only been notified about this earlier today, a couple hours ago. I've called up a number of people. I'm involved with unions and other organizations. I did call some of the people up and let them know about this. They were all outraged over this. And they said any legislatures that vote to give their hard-earned money, their tax dollars, to organizations like this, flippantly, or even to organizations that are opposed to the values of the people of this county, they will work very hard to oppose any of those legislators, regardless of their party affiliation. So I just want to let that be known. Okay?
Thank you,
Thank
Steve.
you for letting me have
If
it.
I
Thank
could
you.
just
Well,
respond.
no, this, if we could,
Just to.
well, no, I'm gonna address that, but Steve, thank you for your comments, really appreciate it.
You are- thank you.
Thank you, and this is the public comment section now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we want to
Okay.
have the public comment, but I do want to reassure Steve and anyone else who might be under misconception that no county tax dollars went to any organization that did that. I mean, that's what we have to make clear, and I'm infringing on the rule here, this is public session, but I do want to, Steve, if it's any consolation or reassurance to you, no county tax dollars were spent for the actions you described. and I'll fill you more in on that later.
Well, with all due respect, that's not what I was told.
Well, I'll speak to you. I can understand how you were told something else. Would anyone else like to speak?
The paper.
Bob Dumont, Brewster Theater, and I'll thank you, and I'll thank the Arts Council for all the money that they give, all the time that they put in, and for all the years Brewster Theater has received a Arts Council grant. And I would assure you that every dollar that has come to our organization, and I'm sure many others, we raise much more in corporate, individual donor, and every other kind of, exchange than we get from the county. As an example, we might get $1,000 from the county. A show at Brewster Theater costs over $20,000, okay? So whether that $1,000 comes or not, it's well appreciated, but it's not gonna stop our program. So, and Mr. Elmer, to your point, controlling all the money that comes out of any organization is an impossible task. It's like us saying what comes out of the county, we wanna monitor what you do. It's just impossible. There are bad eggs everywhere, everybody's trying to do a great thing, and I will tell you that if 100 people come to a show, if 3,000 people who come to Brewster Theater shows come in every year, every dollar that's given to us goes to restaurants, shopping. We shop so much local. We make it a point to shop local. The sales tax dollars that get generated come back to this county times 10. So the arts, in general, people come to these shows, support these shows, local people are involved in these shows, it gives them things to do. So if we're afraid that this money is being misspent or misdirected or could have a better use elsewhere, I can guarantee you, you're getting all of that back times 10. So I appreciate all you do, I appreciate the concerns of the public, but the arts funds itself, and whatever we get, I can guarantee you, comes back, right back into your funds. It's a big circle, so appreciate all you do, and I hope that clarifies a little bit of your concern.
Thank you, sir. Please, come forward. Welcome, and if you just wouldn't mind stating your name and the town you're from?
Sure. My name's Christine Smith. I'm going to say I'm from Putnam County
Great.
because I was born and raised in Brewster and I live in Mahopac now.
You're saying that right, by the way.
Yeah, I'm a native. My parents are too. My grandparents are. My great-grandparents are. So my family actually goes back to the local Indian tribe. So we've been here forever. And I run the Doansburg Chamber Ensemble, which is, I have 150 musicians on my roster. And this is our 40th year. The Putnam Arts Council has sponsored us for 40 years with these grants. And let me tell you what happened with those grants. For 40 years, we have done a chamber ensemble concert series in Putnam County, both sides of the county, okay? Our concerts are now streamed. We don't charge anybody for the streaming. So if you can't afford to come to one of our concerts, you can watch it on stream. And what we've also found out is that the nursing homes are picking us up and showing it to the seniors. We have a lot of seniors at our concerts. They're bringing their grandchildren. And when the children come in, because I was a Brewster Elementary School music teacher for 36 years, boy, that kid gets the red carpet. And sometimes even in impromptu lesson, I'll pass my flute over to a kid who's a flutist and say, hey, play for me, okay? So this funding is very important. Yes, my chamber ensemble, we're knocking on everybody's door, okay? Because it takes a business, it takes private, it takes our ticket money, it takes the grant money, it takes the whole package in order for us to survive. And the Doansburg Chamber Ensemble, sometimes I sit at home before a concert answering the phone. Oh yes, what is there to do in Cold Spring? Oh yes, what is there to do over in Brewster? Where is there a place to eat? I feel like a tour guide sometimes, okay? So the money is coming back into our county. And we couldn't have done it without these ladies sitting here and without the Putnam Arts Council sponsoring us. And because our concerts are streamed now, our concerts are going worldwide. We've had people in France and Canada, all over the world now, listening to a concert that comes from Putnam County, all over the world. So I can't thank the legislature and Putnam Arts Council for sponsoring us, because that money does come back. We are providing a service here. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome.
We're going to hear from Alex, and he's going to do things that are, my name is James Shearwood. I am one of the original founders of Arts on the Lake, and I currently direct and organize theater programs at Arts on the Lake. Although the organization and the building itself was largely built on volunteer labor, the grants that have been allocated to us have enabled us to do, the first one was to interview Kent citizens, elderly citizens in particular, to create a play called Kent Stories, which we did out of the stories that we got from interviewing the citizens. Based on tonight's, I think it's time to revive that play and update it and do it part 2. The grants over the years have enabled us to offer pay what you wish concerts and performances. I'm thrilled to hear that you do them on Zoom, and we're going to try to do some of that too, somehow. We did, during the pandemic, we formed the Putnam Theater Alliance, which was 3 theater groups within Putnam to do things together. And one of the plays, we did the plays on Zoom, and people bought tickets through one of the programs that we used, and I started getting a lot of orders from Italy. And I wondered what was going on. They're not flying over from Italy. I realized, one of the young women in one of the plays had come to make her career in the United States, but her family in Italy had never seen her live perform. And they were watching on Zoom. So, new ways of reaching people are granting. The grants have enabled us to offer many concerts, and we have had subsidized workshops that have enabled many citizens in Kent and elsewhere to become better painters, writers, and ukulele players. A grant from the Putnam Arts Council is almost never finite because, as the Brewster Theater Company has already alluded to, it triggers additional funding from businesses in the area, foundations from outside the area, and other individuals. The Putnam Grant Council's grant is something of a good housekeeping seal of approval, and it enables people who don't want to take a chance to take a chance, because somebody has already said this is a good project. And with the help of the Putnam Tourism Office, people come here by working with them to hear and see and participate in the arts. It's a draw, and probably each group will say that. And we've discovered anyone who comes here for a performance stays here long enough to eat a meal before they go back to wherever their home is. And specifically, from personal knowledge, I can say plays developed at Arts on the Lake and other theaters in the county have gone on to have productions off-Broadway, on the BBC, and sister theaters within the county. Is the money granted well spent? I think so. I think all of us think so. Does it generate additional business activity in the county? Most definitely. And is it worth doing? We can't live without expressing ourselves. And a framework for doing that is what the arts provides. I believe there's been studies made during COVID that you need social activity to be healthy. And without it, there are problems. I could go on, but I learned early in life and in the theater, a good pause is sometimes more important than words.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that. James is an actor. And he had a notepad. I just have a pen. It looks soothing, so I'm holding a pen. My name's Alex Sewell. I'm a resident of Kent, New York, and I'm a volunteer as a juror for the Putnam Arts Council. I got to do this previous years, so 2025's grant applications, that process. So it was around 40 hours of labor reviewing each individual grant. And it was actually really fascinating because you get to see what they're doing within the county, but also for the county. A lot of the programs even had people that were from our high schools coming back around to do things for our communities, which is incredible to see. You know, it's a heck of a process, and a lot of labor goes into it, and we do it as volunteers because, well, we love the arts. You know, I'm a union laborer for film and TV. I'm also a painter. But, you know, when earlier the gentleman spoke about taxpayer money and services, and, you know, what are we paying for, right? Even though it's 15 cents a person, so you break it down like that. People are stressed these days. There's not a lot of money these days. But what you get in return, in addition to culture with these events, is a sort of social and community engagement that I think is paramount to people staying in this area and volunteering in this area. We're having trouble with retaining volunteer firefighters. EMS services are going from, you know, volunteer to private and so forth. Kids aren't gonna wanna stick around if they don't have experiences that tie them here. People that are from here, they can think back to all the wonderful opportunities they had growing up. So, in times of economic stability and growth, these things are taken for granted. Everybody's volunteers, a little nice pitch in from the county, etc. It's harder than ever to do these things, but I think they're more important than ever, especially considering the future of our county and wanting people to stay here and continue to develop it and care about it. That's all I had to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Linda. I am a resident of Putnam, and I do Martin Luther King celebration. That's been going on for the last 10 years, and the 4th year Black History celebration, and this is going to be our 3rd Juneteenth celebration, and possibly a 2nd year receiving a grant from the Putnam Arts Council. You know, it was really interesting to me when we first started doing a Black History celebration that we found out that there were residences and communities and resorts in this county for the last 100 years. 100 years ago, they had Black resorts in Putnam County, and that was really, I never knew that, you know, but as you learn and you start to do investigations to bring more information out to the county and in a way of celebration, I thought we were doing a great job. I know we're doing a great job now. I don't know what happened. Something happened. There was a what do you call ceasefire in Gaza rally on the courthouse steps that became unruly. It was bad, you know, on both sides. But there was also money wasted, thousands of dollars on a county lawyer to get a member off of the school board. And the commissioner found that that was unfounded, and so money was wasted. We come out of our pocket, especially me, to make these 3 events happen with the 1 grant. 3 events, okay? Everybody's welcome. Some people said, oh, I don't feel welcome, but they had never been to the first one. And I just found that to be ingenuous, you know, it was disingenuous. And it was pretty sad because everyone is welcome, and when people do come out, all ages, they enjoy themselves. And I think that we have to do that, you know, even in a prison. Prisoners are allowed to go to school. They have all sorts of different things that they can do to while away their serving time, when they're serving time. But here we are in a community, and we're not going to war with anybody. People have disagreements. they see two ways. I mean, if we all thought the same, we would be robots or AI. You know, you can't have a rainbow if everything is muddled up and mixed around in one pot. We're separate individuals, and we're having a St. Patrick's Day parade. We have a German Day parade. We have all types of, but the minute you hear black, it's like you can't get out of that black hole, and it's sad. And I had no idea what I was going to hear when I came here today. But I know that you know, somebody said that drummer took a lot less money from us, a lot less, just because he wanted to bring some culture and joy to Putnam County. And so did I, personally. And I don't know whether you give us the money or not, we're still doing it. It's not going to stop.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome. If you could tell us your name and town.
Hi, my name is Carmel. So I'm okay with what, you know, the art on lake and all that. I have been to plenty of events in the neighborhood. I did have a problem with some of the people that were assisting and helping out in these events. For example, I have a lot of background with, I'm a fan of Black History Month. I know a lot about it. You can test me. I have no issue with it. I've never been to a St. Patrick's Day parade. I've been to plenty of Black History events. Juneteenth I've never have been to. I don't really care for it. Martin Luther King, I know a lot about. My huge problem here is that some of these events that they are funneling their money to, some of those people that were on those steps that did spit at the cops, that did call me a baby killer, I was there, that did call other people in this room baby killers, and some of those people that were at the meeting, and we have him on our school board, he's at those events that these people give money to. It's kind of like upsetting, and even the Arts on the Lake recently, which I wish I would have went to, because I like to be there for Martin Luther King, and I'm a big fan, and even been to Alabama to look at the history of, I love history that much that I like visiting the place itself. He was at that event along with other people that were on the steps. And I can't go to those events in my town because those people are there. And these people are giving money to those people in a roundabout way. And I feel bad for all these people in this office and in here that, I know you guys want to push forward yourself, but I can't support people in this town that are divisive. I mean, you can write this in your book because your wife is part of that group.
If we could just address the legislature.
Don't speak to people.
Just speak to us,
So my big
please.
issue is, I would like to know a list. I would like to see that list of who they're going to approve. I would like to see that.
Well, what I can tell you is that.
I know I can't vote on it.
Yep.
And I know we push them, but I am telling you, you had an event at Tilly Foster, okay, that these two people were there, 3 of them. You had an event on the lake, these people were there, and I can't go to it, okay? How am I supposed to feel that I can't go to these events because these people are there? That's not fair to me. That's not fair to a lot of my friends who love history. Okay? I literally take my kids on vacation, I take them to Washington, I take them to Alabama, I take them everywhere so they can actually see what they learn in school. And I've learned about Black History Month. I went to school in Queens. So I know everyone's like, they don't learn about Black history. I've never heard such a thing. I mean, I wrote a report on Harriet Tubman. She was one of my favorite, So what I'm trying to say is I can't go into these places, and these people they don't know. I don't think you know.
Well, again, if you could address the legislature.
I don't think they know who they're giving their money to, and that these people that spit at cops, that did all these things on those steps in our town, are involved somehow on one another and are being funded. I don't think these two people that are here understand that or know that. But that's what my issue is. I don't like the money going to those people. I have a problem with them. There's a lot more things behind the scenes where I've actually emailed some people in this town about one of our board members and what goes on. And these huge investigations where I can't even mention it here. And I think a lot of people here know what goes on behind the scenes. But I can't really say, but I just want to make it known that I don't know if these people know that these people are a part of it. They were on the board, they were on the grounds at that protest. And I don't want activism shouldn't be funded. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. What I'd like to mention is, and this is for everybody in the room, if you want to take down this number, 808-1020, that's our office number here at the Legislature. We're going to be, as I said earlier, this is just the first step in the process, is getting the money back into the budget. There will be a second meeting, I don't know if it'll be April or maybe May, of this committee, where that list that you're asking for will be before us. And as you can tell tonight, we are very open to hearing everybody's suggestions and everybody's input at these committee meetings. So, I hate to do that to Diane, but Diane, please give 808, that's our clerk, 808-1020 a call tomorrow, 845, and we can let you know when that list will be before this committee. Because I think it's important, these are taxpayer dollars, we understand that. To echo a little bit about what Steve is saying, and to echo what the artists are saying too. It's their dollars too.
I do love, I love going to those
yeah.
events, but I can't go.
So please come back to everybody here, we're still going to the public, and then we'll come back and wrap it up. But so 808-1020, call us and we'll let you, or check our website out, it'll be on the agenda.
Yeah, I'm sorry for starting, this is my second language.
Oh, that's fine. No, you're excellent.
I speak English as my second language,
No,
so
you can, no, don't apologize. Ma'am, would you like to join us?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having us.
Thank you.
My name is Elizabeth Frischow. I come from Arts on the Lake area, Lake Carmel. And I've been in this community since 1956, so I go back a long way. And there was no arts on the lake. There was no arts. And as a kid, in the summer, there wasn't very much to do or go to. And it's made a huge difference. I see it now. And we have a lot of problems. This is a complicated society. It's a very complicated time. People are stretched, people are angry, but it's not the whole picture. What's really important is community, not to just say, well, some bad apples, we're gonna throw the baby out with the bathwater. That would be a terrible, terrible mistake. I can tell you from the time when none of this was here. And for the most part, I really would say for 95%, good things, good people are involved, good people are giving their hearts. And I'm speaking as a grandmother now. It is essential for the little ones to have something to become part of, to see people who are enjoying themselves. I went to a dance yesterday, Sunday, at Arts on the Lake. The performers were smiling, the audience smiles. This is contagious. This is what we need. So to hold up money because of one terrible incident is a really big mistake, and not a direction we need to go in. We need to look at the big picture, what comes back to the community, and focus on community. This is what we desperately need. And I do believe COVID has put a huge wrench into all of us. It's traumatized our society. We had to look at people, am I gonna get sick from this one? We can't mingle, we can't have anything. And now to go back to that because of an incident, which we need to look more carefully, how can we prevent things like that from going on? Again, I'll repeat myself, big mistake. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Linda Thornton. I live in Garrison, and I'm Managing Director of Tompkins Corners Cultural Center in Putnam Valley. If you're not aware of us, we are a very small organization. We have a working board of just 7 members and are run by volunteers. I assure you that we go after money every way we possibly can. We seek donations, we seek sponsorships, and we pay our mortgage, and we pay our oil and our electricity, all those basic costs we pay. But our mission is to preserve this historic church that we bought in Putnam Valley. And in order to do this, we offer cultural arts to our community. We are the only cultural center in Putnam Valley, and we largely serve Putnam Valley and Putnam County. We're very important for our community. It's a place for them to gather. We have intermissions during our shows, which are as popular as the shows themselves, because everybody takes the time to, to buy some baked goods and chat with their neighbors. We are extremely important for the community, but we never have enough money to do what we need to do. I'm not even talking about the preservation of our church right now. I'm just talking about trying to provide the kind of quality programming that we're known for and that we wish to provide to our community. And the little bit that the Putnam Arts Council is able to give us towards our John Cohen Memorial Concert Series is extremely helpful. It helps us bring higher quality programming than we would otherwise be able to bring. And yes, the Arts Council is strict. I fill out those applications, I send in my reports, and I work that budget as it needs to be worked. So I assure you that none of that money is going for anything other than the programming that we apply for. And we thank you so much for everything that you do for us, and thank you for hearing me.
Welcome. Thank you.
Good evening. So my name is Adriana Wise, and I'm a resident of Putnam County, and I want to echo the comments made by Steve Chlorophyll and Carmel Atria. I feel that the tax burden on the people in Putnam County is high as is, that's one. I also feel that there are different ways to fund events. I have personally taken my kids to Arts on the Lake when they were little, and we paid full tuition, even though we had a very large family, as all of you know. I have participated to many events organized by churches and other organizations that were absolutely funded with donations. So I think that we can do the same thing with arts. And then finally, I also am aware of more than one instance when money provided by this council has fallen into the wrong hands of people who would like to stoke division in our county and who have been behaving in a way that is an affront to all of us. And I want to bring to your attention that no further than here and tonight, the person sitting right next to me treated myself and my friend with profanity, with threats. They're not here anymore, they stepped out, but this is how they look upon the residents of Putnam. And I feel, personally, to me, it's not a good idea to fund people who believe like this about us. So I'm against it. And I'm sure that I speak for a lot of people who, earn their money in Putnam.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other member of the public care to speak? Ma'am, please, join us.
Thank you.
I like the flowers.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Judith Sheridan, and I'm the president of the Putnam Symphony Orchestra. We would not survive if it wasn't for these ladies. We do a lot of fundraising, we knock on businesses, we do everything we can, but we rely greatly on the grants that we receive. Putnam Symphony Orchestra has 2 projects a year. We put on 2 concerts. At the holidays, we put on a very family-friendly concert where kids can come, and perhaps the first time, be exposed to what a symphony is. They get to have Santa Claus and Frosty and Christmas caroling and have a snowball fight in the auditorium. In the spring, we showcase the other side of our orchestra, and we do a more serious concert, where again, we reach out to the community to teach something. Last year, our concert was about the Olympics, and we focused on the countries since COVID. So China, Japan, France, Greece is the origin, and the United States, home team. Our music came from these 5 countries, as well as the Olympic theme. Our conductor spoke about these countries as we performed our pieces. Our program taught about these countries and how this music tied into their culture. We sold snacks from these countries where people could learn about what people in these countries eat. This year, our program is all about women, American women composers, something that we usually don't see a lot of in symphony concerts. We do our best for that. We also try to reach out to the community by keeping our ticket prices very low. Seniors and the students can come to our concerts for $10. It's less than a movie. And for many people, it's the first time that they might be exposed. For our seniors, it gives them a chance to go out and actually have a fun day out. The entire family, $40. Mom, dad, grandma, 5 kids. We're not gonna turn you away and tell you that you can't see a concert. Perhaps you can't go down to Manhattan. Perhaps you can't even go to White Plains. We give you that opportunity. But what we do is even greater than that, because we don't charge tuition. Not only are our musicians not paid, but they don't have to pay us. We've spoken about the difficulties in the economy, seniors having a hard time, families with children. We've had parents come to us to tell us that their kids who have exceeded the high school program and currently play with us wouldn't be able to if it wasn't for no tuition. We also have senior citizens who play with us, and it's a great opportunity for them because seniors need a way to connect with other people. So not only the day of our concert, but for the months leading up to it, they have an opportunity that they can meet with other people who love music as much as them. Their brains are working and learning something new, which has been proven to maybe not keep people from getting dementia, but it definitely postpones it as long as you keep learning something, whether it's a school course or it's something new that you cook, or learning new pieces of music. And playing an instrument is physical, whether you're holding a violin or blowing into a flute, playing a trumpet, whatever it is, you're using your limbs, you're using your fingers, you're helping that arthritis to stay away, you're helping your muscles, you're helping your lungs. Our senior citizens of Putnam County have the ability to come and play with us. And they're using all of that every day as they rehearse before they even come to our rehearsals. We could not survive and do all of this for the county if it wasn't for the grant money. We appreciate this and thank you for letting me speak today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, well, before I want to see if you've already spoken, and you're welcome to speak again, but I just want to see if anybody else wants to speak who hasn't spoken yet. And you'll be coming up, please. I just don't want to miss anybody. Ma'am in the back, then, Steve, you've spoken already, but once we get through one round.
I think we should circle around to the legislature again then, and then back to the public.
Okay, yeah,
'cause
before we do a second round of the public, we'll come back to the legislature, then we'll do a second round.
Okay.
You'll speak again, Stephen, man in the back too. So did somebody, yes, please. Welcome, thank you for joining us.
Good evening, I'm Judy Brewster, I live in Brewster, and I am the Vice President of the Brewster Theater Company. I want to thank you both very much for all the work that you do, and Nancy, thank you so much. We just performed, I directed a production of the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee in Putnam County on our 25th anniversary of being in business. So we are, I'm here to basically, I wanted to clarify something for myself and I guess for everybody here. The incident that took place was not a granted incident, is that right? Okay. So if we, since that seems to be the simplest of terms to talk about and think about, that wasn't something that the Putnam County Arts Council is part of. To me, getting this money to our arts organizations that were promised this money is essential. And we do, we all know, we beg, steal, and borrow to get our money and to get our programs funded. Because when all is said and done, thousands of years from now and thousands of years ago, the way you track things in society is through the arts. And I'm very saddened to hear that there are fellow Putnam County residents here who don't feel that way, because that is, especially today, how I get through my day, knowing that if I can provide opportunities for adults, for kids, for seniors, for families, who all come to me. I just had it happen. We ran 3 weekends. I had strangers come to me, take my arms, thank you. This took me away from my life for a couple of hours. Or performers who are going through a really tough time right now, they come to the theater, we do magic together. We all have other lives. We're community theater, people go to work, people go to school, they come at night, they work their hearts out, they come on Saturdays, they build a set because they're just looking for community. We're not talking about people, you know, people's tax money coming over and giving it to us. We're talking about an organization that is supporting the arts, because the arts is essential to every single community in this country, in this world. That's what lasts. If you think about it, and there are people here who mentioned that they like to learn and they like to go visit places. It's the arts. Go and look at museums, artwork, songs, music, Shakespeare, theater, children's theater. Children are awakened by dance, all of it. That is it. If we don't have arts in our society, we don't have a society. And if you don't agree with me, go home and think about it. So if you just took out the arts, you know, when all is said and done, that's what's gonna be here to look at and to think about in the future. So I thank you, and I thank all of you for supporting and considering, and I hope that you will reconsider and think about that, because this organization didn't fund that. No. Nobody wants that.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean that we should be punished for it. Nobody wants that. Believe me.
Trust me, my intention has never been, and as I said to Joyce, we were just looking at a mechanism, and I'm gonna paraphrase my colleague, we had one bad apple. So to everyone else, first of all, thank you. It's wonderful. I support the arts, I always have supported the arts, and none of you have caused this situation.
But we're hurting because this is happening.
Well, hopefully we're gonna get that solved and get the first step going here, and then continue to find a way to make everybody happy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And anybody who hasn't spoken would wish to speak? You're wearing green today. Why is that? Please join us both together. Fine. That's right. Thanks. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Marie Karstens.
I'm Erin Jennings.
Together we collaborate to make the Putnam County Dance Project, which is a loose affiliation of dancers in the Hudson Valley. But we actually live in Stormville, but our children come to the Carmel district. And so we're very invested. Hi, Tony. She helped to find our house, so, way back when. Yes. And we were really, really delighted to be able to find a home at Arts on the Lake, who is our sponsor. And there's a way through the Arts, Putnam Arts Council, through these links, that individual artists can be sponsored. And so even though we are technically in Dutchess, we are so invested in Putnam County that we want to provide arts in Putnam County. And we appreciate so much the support that Arts on the Lake has given us, that Putnam Arts Council has given us. And yesterday,
we were the dance show.
We were the dance show. And I want you to know that it was free. And I want you to know that it was at 3 o'clock so families could come. So our dancers who have families could come and bring their children. And my children and Aaron's children could babysit them as part of the show. Right? And that afterwards, because the arts creates and inspires a lot of thought and a lot of discourse, we have a way of looping everybody into a big discussion about what moved them, what did they want to see more of, what inspired them.
What did they learn? We were talking about arts, we were talking about performance. And then all of our other shows are educational. We have workshops that we offer for free for families. We've done many of these. We have a whole global water event that happens. We were awarded by the county, actually.
2 years ago, I stood here with you and gratefully received recognition of this council about our participation in global water dances, which is happening again this June, which we're so hoping to have some funding for.
And in that program, we're working to increase information about the lakes and how can we improve the environment in the lakes and.
Yeah, and we always have some educational piece about how clean water is so important to this county. And how do we do it? We do it through the arts. And you know what? It connects internationally. So 2 weeks ago, I was on a Zoom with people in Europe, in Australia, in Asia, who are all hearing about Putnam County. And I'm hearing about their counties. And we're sharing issues that are relevant worldwide and locally. So we're on the map, globalwater.org. Kansas.org. And I just want you to know all of that is free to the public. It's free and family-oriented. We have it at times to include because that's what we value. We value community, we value family, we value arts in education, for education, and all of the wonderful things that have been said already tonight about the arts. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, and what I would ask, please join us in welcome. Unless there's anybody else who hasn't spoken yet would like to speak, we'll certainly want you to come up and speak if you haven't spoken yet. And as Nancy was saying, maybe we'll just do a quick round of the legislators, then we'll go back and see if there's any member of the public has a second wrap up. But I interrupted you. Go right ahead. Welcome.
My name is Ellen Learberger-Durkee. I am a founding member of Arts on the Lake and current vice president, founding member since 2006, when an enormous group of us from all over the county got together and talked about what would make a great art community. And so we've done that over these last years, and we're so appreciative to Arts on the Lake. Personally, my daughter started working with Joyce when she was 5 years old. She went to camp at the Putnam Arts Council forever, showed aptitude in arts, specifically in ceramics, and worked there and went to camp there and volunteered there until she left for college, and continues to be a ceramicist. I think she just used you as a reference for a current thing. My son is a budding filmmaker. He has, from the time that he was 3 years old at Arts on the Lake, he used to sleep on the floor during events. He's now in LA trying to take that further. Created a feature-length film that we premiered at Arts on the Lake. We never turn anybody away. I constantly am the doorkeeper. Even if we have a ticketed event and somebody says, I really want to see this, but they don't have the money, we don't think twice about it, because we think the arts are so important for everybody. We think it is a language that everybody needs to learn. We think that there are different ways that people learn and express themselves that the arts tie into. I think that for those bad apples that we keep referring to, what they really need is they need some more arts in their lives. We need to be discussing, seriously, we need to be creating programs where we can talk together, where we can communicate. So instead of being divisive, we should use the arts for what they're really best used for, bringing people together, bringing communities together, solving problems, looking at our differences, trying to come up with common vocabulary, common visualizations, common ways of making a community stronger, safer, more connected, and I think that's what the arts really do. So I really appreciate your funding all these years. I really appreciate everything you've done for my children all these years. And I just think instead of trying to look for ways that we're different, we should maybe think about trying to work on making us have more common ways of working together.
Thank you. Unless there's, oh, sorry, yes, you haven't spoken, sir, please. Welcome.
Putnam County. I live around the corner in Mayapack. There are a number of issues that sort of gotten all mashed together within this meeting. And since you're going to have another meeting in a few months to discuss whether or not some progress has been made or other things need to be considered, it might be good to consider this. Although there are a number of organizations here that have presented their contributions to the community, and most of them sound noteworthy and whatnot. Ultimately, you are spending the public's money, and money is fungible. So if you give me $50 to pay my rent, I now have $50 to do as I please somewhere else. So it's important to understand that. And the bigger problem is what seems to be not so much the misuse of funds, because we've heard a number of times about the rigorous process that most of these organizations are put through to ensure that they're not stealing or misappropriating the funds. They are, in some cases, apparently funding things that are not conducive to the general public. Now, although it's any society or community, in the past, it's pretty much a given that if it doesn't invest in some art or some artist, they tend to fall by the wayside, they fall apart, and they're not very, they're not successful. Any society that did not foster some sort of art has fallen apart, and I'm sure that goes right down to the smallest scale to even our local towns and communities. As for the funds going to individuals or groups who aren't doing something beneficial for the community, I think the greatest problem we need to see here was really demonstrated by the people who are the greatest advocates of the Arts Society here, or the Arts Council. When they talked about how the money benefited their organization, there were two major flaws in what they were saying. One, their organizations generally can't fund themselves. That's pretty typical of art. Secondly, they gave all the accolades and all the thanks to the Arts Council, when in fact it was the Putnam County taxpayer that permitted this to go. The thanks and the accolades should go to the Putnam County Legislature, the local people and whatnot.
No, we're just conduits, not us.
Well, you know, you have decided and allocated a certain amount of funds within your purview to go to the arts. And so, you know, at the very least, it should pass on to the community. The community hasn't been recognized in this, a specific organization has. And the specific organization now has influence that would be undue for anybody else, funded by the community. And this is how problems like have been discussed arise. In terms of who got funded and what misdeeds may or may not have been done, there's a good reason for that. Just like when you play Whisper Down the Lane, by the time it gets to the other side, nobody understands what was originally said. So when the money passes from the legislature to a private organization, it has the de facto ability to say yes or no to where the funds go. It's abdicated its responsibility and its fiduciary responsibility to the people to that organization. Now, the only branch of government that legally has the ability to delegate this kind of stuff is the executive branch, not the legislative. And so that's a double problem. If the decision on any of these individual cases where money was allotted to the arts in one form or another, or a particular artist, were brought back into the legislature, perhaps you had a council or some sort of roundtable where you would look at and evaluate the merits of each thing, that would be much better. It would give the community much more control over it, and it would have an accountability that it does not have when money is delegated to a private organization. Through no fault of their own, through no misdeeds or anything, they're no longer accountable to the public. Whereas an open hearing and whatnot on each and every one of the things that are proposed does give them the accountability. Now, the Arts Council has been doing this for quite a while. Apparently, everybody who's been involved in it were impressed with their process, their procedure, and they have a long history of trustworthiness with their process. It might be in the legislature's interest to bring them on board either as counselors or as individuals to assist someone applying for a grant directly to Putnam County, rather than delegate the funds and whatnot to the third-party organization. These are things I think you should consider going forward. As for who it funded and the bad things that happened, it doesn't matter if we had, St. Michael there. Ultimately, as it gets further down that road, those funds can easily be diverted for someone else's private interpretation of what is needed. That's how you end up with people like Maplethorpe and whatnot. But if you know who that is. Those are the things I think you should consider, because in one sense it would be a tremendous waste to lose experience and talent in vetting these particular endeavors, but it's also a dereliction of the oversight that the legislature body should have in allowing an independent organization to make these decisions and to come up with the rules. That's about all I have to say.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. What I'd like to do now, not seeing any other first-time hands up, and we will get back to, oh, yes. One more, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me do me.
Okay.
I'm Elena Truscott with the Town of Southeast Cultural Arts Coalition. We're not-for-profit, so we're subject to all sorts of regulations that are set forth by the federal government and the state for not-for-profits. We're dedicated to creating and sustaining cultural arts in Brewster, Southeast, and the region. Since inception in 2010, we've offered hundreds of activities and events at the studio around the corner and at the Southeast Old Town Hall in Brewster. And at the same time, we've spearheaded the restoration of the building, 1896 historic resource. And well, I've spent the last 15 years of my life as a professional, as a registered professional engineer, volunteering my time to get that building restored. And in fact, my organization has put forth $99,000 of money that we've gotten from begging and donating and soliciting funds to get that project going. And we've also gotten money from the Arts Council to do the arts programming so that we can get people excited to actually come and to actually want arts. I'm not gonna belabor it, but I think the county has gotten much more money out of us than we've gotten out of the county. And my organization hasn't even applied for county money this year. I'm gonna take a, I'll close in a second here.
Sure, take your, no rush.
So I'm gonna borrow from Ken Burns, who at a commencement address last summer, he said, "Insist that government supports science and the arts, especially the arts. They have nothing to do with the actual defense of the country. They just make our country worth defending. On the local level, the arts seemingly may have little to do with the actual running of the county. They just make the county worth running." Thanks.
Thank you. What I'd like to do is briefly open it back up to the legislature, see if there's any parting thoughts. I would just like to explain some of the process, because I think there were some good points made about the process. We got this, well, not me, but the legislature last year, as part of our decentralized budget process, we get a tentative budget from our county executive. And within that tentative budget was this $13,900. Kevin Burns put it in his budget. And again, I wasn't here, but this committee, this legislature, put it in subcontingency. So to that extent, we did have some very active, and again, that's nothing unusual. This has been going on for 56 years. It's been in our county budget, I guess, for 56 years before we even had a county legislature. So the county executive has a strong hand in putting this money into the budget. And in fact, we have a budgetary amendment tonight from the administration to move it back out. So we do have both branches of the government involved here. And then, as I was saying earlier today, just a process note, this will be coming back before this committee and then the full legislature at some point in the future. I'm not gonna ask for a time frame because I know we've delayed you so far, but I imagine within the next 2 or 3 months, we'll see this again. And what we will see is the actual organizations that are recommended to us. And keep in mind, that's just a recommendation. This legislature and then the county executive will have to sign something, or not, approving those individual grants to those individual organizations. So again, we'll have a second opportunity for both branches of the county government to weigh in and vet. And quite frankly, what this organization does, the Putnam Arts Council, is does all that work so that we don't have to, in the sense that vetting them, making sure that they have ticked all the boxes with respect to the 501c3s, making sure their grant applications are complete. If we were to do this as a to use taxpayer fund, they're doing it for free. If we were to do that as a taxpayer-funded endeavor, it'd be a lot more expensive. So rest assured, this is an open process. I'm heartened that we've been talking about this for an hour and a half. I think that's a good thing. I've learned a lot tonight, and I hope we all have as well. So I've said enough, and I'd like to open it up to any one of my colleagues, whether they're on the committee or not. Nancy?
Thank you. I'm glad that Ms. Brewster clarified that this incident that we keep going around and around with was not funded by this grant money. And also, I worked 10 years to bring an organization to Putnam that puts our veteran soldiers, active duties soldiers in a therapeutic setting, one-on-one with songwriters called, I won't even name it. And this is funded somewhat with public money. And I'm wondering, there's another organization, I think, called Guardian Revival that also does arts programs for our veterans, our combat veterans, our active duty veterans, providing the songwriting, poetry, all kinds of programming, arts programming for our veterans. So I'm wondering if our folks who are opposed to funding the arts feel that we shouldn't fund the arts for veterans. We should take this money away from veterans. And also, I'm just, I'm looking at the sales tax revenue that's generated throughout the county in different categories. And the third top earning category is restaurants and other eating establishments. In 2024, Putnam County generated $149,432,000 in restaurant and other eating establishments. I'm sure Elon could come up with a mechanism for our cards that can determine when we're going to an arts program and then we're going to an eating establishment. I think the fifth category is gasoline sales. Number 13 is building and machinery. Let me just see here. Machinery, equipment, automotive equipment. I'm trying to get to, I'm sorry, building material and supplies. So the arts are usually housed in older buildings, maybe sometimes old churches, sometimes barns, sometimes, most of the time, buildings that need a lot of repair and a lot of equipment and a lot of engineering, as someone said. That alone in Putnam County generated, building material and supplies generated $132,444,000. So I think if we take the sales tax revenue that's generated from restaurant sales, gasoline sales, building material sales, hard plumbing, heating equipment. Oh, do you guys pay for heating at your establishments?
Yeah.
That generates $26,650,000 in Putnam County. So let's take that out of the Putnam County general fund, which is where the sales tax revenue goes. That money fixes our roads, pays our salary, pays for our $40,000 a tax on our Democratic sheriff that we put on the shelf, and let's take that and give it back to the arts. And then we won't have to give them this $13,000. And we can give them the millions that's generated in sales tax revenue. So it won't go to the county, It won't go to the general budget, it'll go directly to the arts, and I'm sure it's 2025. We have technology, we have brilliant people like Elon Musk who can generate the kind of technology we need to determine this. And then we could just put it right into the arts, and I think that would be a really good idea.
Any other legislator have any comments? Bill? I'd like to go back out into the public, and if there's an unspoken word that hasn't been spoken yet, we'd love to hear it, or not. If you want to reiterate something, please come up.
Okay, just
We do have other agenda items.
make it
and
short.
you don't have to, but I just want to sensitize people to that.
Well, I wear many different hats in Putnam County, because I not only run the Doansbury Chamber Ensemble, but I'm also the conductor of Putnam Symphony Orchestra, which Judith spoke about. But the one thing I want you to know about Putnam Symphony Orchestra is how much education goes on there. I have senior citizens who have not played their instruments in 20 years, and they come back to the orchestra to start again. In the meantime, I have very gifted and talented high school students from all our schools in Putnam County come to Putnam Symphony. And what I'm seeing is our students, who are really good, are helping our senior citizens learn again. And those who are professionals, semi-professionals playing with us, they're turning around and helping our students. Our students from Putnam Symphony Orchestra, they've gone all over the country. They are now professors at universities. They are sitting in some of the major orchestras now. And what a great educational setting. I went to Juilliard. And when I arrived at Juilliard at 14, okay, we had to take an audition. And it was a piece of music that I had just gotten done playing with Putnam Symphony. I guess I must have played it very well, because I got the solo and I played it at Lincoln Center. All because we had a community orchestra. And many communities do not have a community orchestra. So I just wanted to let you know how much learning and where our students are going from Putnam County, from Putnam Symphony. Thank you.
Steve, please join us. Welcome again, Steve.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Sure.
It was suggested by someone here who said, let Elon Musk figure out how much money is generated by these events.
And we know how much money is generated.
That doesn't.
We know how much money is generated.
We don't know.
We don't know how much money.
It's right here, look up the sales tax revenue.
We don't know if they were going to a restaurant because they're an arts event or not. We don't know that. But what we do know is that people are having trouble feeding their families. You know, it's nice to talk about in a bourgeois world how it's wonderful that we have all this stuff, and I'm not doubting that it might be. However, when people are having trouble making ends meet, when I see union people that I know having to move out of Putnam County because they cannot afford to feed their families and pay the exorbitant taxes, and then we're over here talking about concerts and all this other stuff, that should take a back seat to people affording their lives, to people affording to pay for food for their families, for people to afford their taxes. This is, you know, if you're a wealthy lady like this woman on the end over here.
Steve, please just address the committee.
Oh, okay.
Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
$47,000 a year.
Nance,
That's
please.
what I make a year,
Let's-
$47,000.
Guys, let's keep it under. Steve, just address the committee,
Yes,
please.
I will. Yes,
Thank
I
you.
will.
That's the three of us, okay?
Okay.
Did you
Thank
see
you.
my car?
I stand corrected.
Pretty.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's held together with duct tape.
Nancy,
When,
it's okay. Just go ahead, Steve, please.
what seems to be lost on many of these people, and I'm sure some of them are very nice people, they lose sight. They say we'll have education, we'll have this, we'll have that. They're not addressing the issues, the meat and potato issues that families are facing. I speak to people that cannot afford to live here anymore. And they're very flippant about, well, let's pay for this. If also, they say, well, we provide art opportunities. But there's no choice for people. If people had their own money, they could have a choice as to which type of arts they wanted to support. They wouldn't have to be railroaded by having their tax money used by the county government on projects or art avenues that they're not interested in. I think it's lost. I hear all these people talking, the main point I was trying to make is completely lost on most of these people. It's great to have art, it's great, I would love for my daughter to have the county pay for her sculpting classes so she can learn how to be a sculptor, but do I burden the taxpayers with that? It would be great if my youngest daughter was given lessons on how to properly skateboard. But do I burden the taxpayers with that? This is what's being completely lost in this room. But I'll tell you who it's not going to be lost on. It's not going to be lost on the working people of Putnam County when they are made aware of how their tax dollars are being flippantly spent. And when people say that some of these, and I wasn't there, but I've heard about this from many people, about this demonstration of people that were highly objectionable to the vast majority of Putnam County people. I wasn't there, but I've heard it from enough people to know that it's probably true. And even though the money might not have been given directly from the county for objectionable activities, this, from what I've been told, and I believe it's true, that this Putnam Arts Council has given money to organizations that have done objectionable things that most people in Putnam County would, I think most people would agree with. Just about everyone I spoke to so far is just about unanimous about opposing giving their tax money away flippantly. And this is what I think the county government should seriously think about.
Thank you, Steve. Adriana, please.
I'm going to.
I'm sorry, guys, if we could.
I wrote it down so that I can stay very concise.
Yeah, I've got it.
So, from what I could glean, there is a false dichotomy between art and no art. And I think, I speak for people like Steve or Carmela or our friends. That's absolutely not the case. So I personally would favor the county giving money to emerging and new and fresh talent. But at the same time, art is a personal choice. So just like with healthcare and school, there are some of us who would like to be given the choice, the free choice to spend our money for art that we like and we care about. So that's point number one. Point number two is the fact that most recipients of the art grants by the county remain largely unknown to the public suggests that the art community operates more like an insular, enclosed group, disconnected from the values that are shared by most of the residents of Putnam County. So that's my impression. And finally, I agree with Peter Fiori, who stated that there should be clear measure for success of the art projects, and there should be a reevaluation process for each project by the county to make sure that only successful and widely acclaimed and liked programs survive. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we'll do just two more because we do have a heavy agenda tonight. Maybe you and then Sir, if you come up, just two more.
I didn't prepare.
That's
My name is
fine.
Callie Corderas.
Thank you.
I have a small new company called Spring Dance. We were very blessed by the Putnam Arts Council because the year we didn't have funding to do a performance, they came forward with the grant. And then I had 3 of my cousins say, you know what, we're gonna match that grant. And that made the performance possible. So I will forever be in debt to both of you. Nobody goes into the arts to make money. That is the last place any intelligent person would go. These are all very gifted, intelligent, talented people who could be making money doing something else. You know that, and I know that. You are all good people. You want a healthy, thriving, prosperous community that feels connected and feels like they're part of a community they could be proud of. We want a community that we could love, and we want to bring people here, and we want to make them fall in love with this community. I fell in love with the natural world of Cold Spring, Putnam County. I fell in love with nature. Cold Spring Dance, in every production we do, we try to connect art history, so we're teaching history, nature, through movement. So we're recreating that experience. We did the Renaissance Ballet, we have other ballets. They're all about history and bringing it to life through dance. Look at these people. They are good people who love what they do. They are pouring their own time into something they believe in. And life without that kind of passion is nothing. I have a 15-year-old son, and that generation is so injured, as somebody said, because of COVID. These kids have so much anxiety and stress and depression. And I tell my son, whatever you can fall, oh, you're taking pictures, I don't like, okay. Whatever you can fall in love with, fall in love with. So my son, he loves to sing. He sings with the Taconic Chorale, but they actually highlighted him in the Currents. He loves to sing. Every Tuesday he goes and sings at the Taconic Chorale, and he's so proud to be part of it. We have to get more of our kids to fall in love with the arts. They will not be depressed. They will not be suicidal. They will not feel like they're alone. We feel alone and disconnected. And people who love the arts want to share it with other people. Come, fall in love with this, because this is what gives your life joy and purpose. And I wake up in the spring at 5 to get into the garden. I love gardening. I love nature. I love dance. And I love how dance can make people happy. Not dance in a shocking way. I'm not into shock art. Intelligent art doesn't need to shock people. You know, you do it in a poetic, nuanced way. You don't want to have to censor, but hopefully most of the artists here know where the fine lines are. Nobody wants to go there. Nobody wants to go there. We just want people to fall in love with all the good things that there are in this world. And we keep killing and killing. My son loves museums, he loves to sing, but he loves wrestling, and I hate wrestling. But he drags me to wrestling matches, and he's like, I know you hate the fact that I love wrestling. I'm like, Christopher, the more you love, the happier you're going to be in life. Whatever it is that draws your attention and draws your joy, go for it. Spirit of place is what they talk about when we design gardens. I'm going to do a lecture on gardening and dance and history at Chapel Restorations in September. And we keep separating things, but they're not separate. We all care about our community, and we have to come together and realize that $13,000 is not what I haven't vacationed in years, but what some families spend on their vacation budget. It's nothing, and it breaks my heart that our community has to come here and beg for $13,000. I think these people deserve more than that. It's not about money. My husband is a Greek Orthodox priest. We don't have money. I was diagnosed with a life-threatening disease, and I was ready to stop the company. And my husband said, no, you're going to do it until your last breath. You've always sacrificed for everybody else, and now's your time to do it. You've given up this dream for your mother, for your family, for everything. Now's your time. So with their help, because they said, we're going to support you and acknowledge you. And their stamp of approval does matter. Do you know how much it meant to me? I know I'm a good artist. I mean, I believe I'm a good artist because I put so much time. I could spend 3 years to put together a 20-minute production. I do so much reading and research. And I love it because it has to be better than what they've seen in the past. I don't want to just fill, I want to give you something that you're going to remember again and again. It has to be meaningful. Otherwise, it's not worth the money. You're right, whoever said that. But, you know, there's a fine line between judging who's worthy and then bringing your own personal political opinions and creating censorship. We don't want to be that. We have to be better than that. We have to evolve, and we have to be respectful. So for the people who feel like they're different, they have to be respectful to the people who've been here for a long time. We have to be respectful of each other because this community will not grow and succeed. The thing I want most is for it to be a community we could all be proud of. And it's with the arts, it really is. It's with the things that we're passionate about that we're gonna be able to move this community to the next level. I am sorry if there was a bad incident. It is important that we're all, even if we don't agree with other people, we have to be respectful. But look at these people. And I mean, I work with autistic children, and I tell my son, he's very bright, but I tell him we can't afford expensive colleges. You know, and I work with autistic people and I'll get hit 4 or 5 times a day. I do this and we put the little money we have into the not-for-profit. I don't need to be working if it wasn't that I don't want to create Cold Spring Dance and give something back. I'm sacrificing my family so that I can create something that gives purpose and joy and adds something, value to your community. So we know you all want a healthy, beautiful community you could be proud of. And these people want the same thing. How we get there, let's just keep talking to each other. But let's not fight as we talk. Let's just talk and let's all try to get there. Because it would be a shame. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to be. And the arts are what make your community stand out. Without the arts, you have nothing. It's the spirit of the place.
Thank you very much. We have our final speaker, sir. Go right ahead.
I will keep this brief.
Thank you.
Sorry, a lot of my points are going to reflect things you already said, and you already know.
That's
for the record.
Of course.
When there are concerns raised about the people deciding who gets what gets funded, etc., I wanted people to know that you're looking at one of those people. And I take the community and the county into consideration completely when I do that. I am a good sample group of the community. My house costed $300,000. I had to work 3 jobs to pay for that house. I worked overnight shifts to pay for that house. I fixed that house myself. I cannot afford a guy to fix my roof. I go fix my roof. You know, I don't think people always understand that advisory committees and councils are created by governments or in tandem with governments to save taxpayers money. You guys are here, you're making a modest sum, very modest, and you're giving your time. And we're going, no, it's an hour, 45 minutes, right? We're all doing this for free. People in all these organizations do this for free in order to save the taxpayers money. And if we create redundancies or extra levels of introspection or debate, it's just going to cost more money. As it is right now, it's 15 cents per person per year to fund the arts, an opportunity for the arts. You don't have to agree with what is going on in the arts, but that 15 cents gives you access to and gives you a voice and an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty, what I'd like to do now is call the question. We have before us, again, just to recap, this was part of the county executive's tentative budget. It came before us in October of last year. It was put into subcontingency by this legislature. We have before us tonight a resolution from the county administration to move $13,993 out of subcontingency and back into the Putnam County budget for the arts and public program. I'll make that.
Could I just say something before you vote? Would that be? I can't.
No, let's.
Okay.
We're gonna move ahead if that's okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'd like the clerk to have a roll call vote, please, Beth.
Legislator Elner?
Yes.
Legislator Gouldman?
Yes.
Chairman Birmingham?
Yes, it's unanimous. Thank you all, and thank you all for coming. I'd like to make a motion to take a 4-minute recess just so we can get up. 4-minute recess.
Oh,
What's that?
okay.
Yeah, I gotta step away for a moment. You're right, Bill. I thought it was a good meeting.
Good meeting.
You're way up in people's all the same.
Thank you.
Was that your plan?
I have a copy of one. That's really what it is.
Well, yeah, maybe I'll just get up.
I was gonna bring it into you, but then I didn't know if you liked it.
Hey, you got time this Friday, come to this Friday.
I mean, this, I should like blow my mind.
What time does it start? 6:45.
One of my sister's college friends, her name is Annie.
I got friends that stay fries. Oh, that's steak fries. And you got macaroni and cheese. A kid that doesn't eat macaroni and cheese.
And I'm sure you and I would have come to the back end.
No, I wasn't prepared.
Thank you. I'm not a good navigator when it comes to yes. Chlorophylla. Oh, what is it? Chlorophylla.
C?
L-O.
C?
Oh,
Chlorophylla, okay. Thank you.
Sure. All righty, let's see if we can.
Conrad.
And I'm like, yeah, they're like, like you get
Oh, thank you.
Congressman, Legislator Elner, can I speak to you after you get a moment, real quick?
I don't know if you're doing time out.
Let me just handle this.
Welcome to the Handmaid's
Oh my God. I'll send you a contribution.
Thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I want to stick around and do this. I wanted to.
Is this what we call money?
This, I learned so much.
Right, remember?
Oh, we're trying to get the rest of the
More than the $30,000 on a lawyer.
I'm just saying thank you, you're amazing.
It's going to be migrants out of Putnam County. There were no migrants coming to Putnam County, but they spent all that money.
I was here
and
for
they
that
had no
meeting.
problem.
Yeah, I came to that meeting, and it was a mess
Let's
outside.
just give it to the lawyers instead of the artists.
They love dissension for lawyers.
$15,000.
They love them. That's like, let's cause a little dissension in Putnam County, you're gonna get paid. And I'm gonna get a little vote, and I'm gonna get a roll vote, it's gonna, yeah, take that.
Thank you so much for stopping.
Right.
What time are we gonna start?
I don't.
Start at 4? Before, exactly, yes. Thank you so much. Take care, guys. Thank you. Be well.
Thank you.
All right. We doing well, Beth? We good?
No?
Poor Beth. Yeah, thank you so much.
Poor Beth.
Let's want to give the money to the lawyers and not the artists.
Why don't they?
They did. They did. You remember the library too?
Yes.
There were no libraries coming to Putnam, but let's throw 15 grand at it.
Oh, sure.
I didn't expect it to go that long.
Let's throw it at shit. That'll work.
All right.
They were sitting in the park. They were sitting in the park, all right? And nobody went over there.
You can see your arms.
I can see.
Eric.
No, did you just do that?
No, you can't see
You can't
me.
see you. See, your hand was down here. That's what I was saying, you can't see your arm.
He might was out and they weren't coming anyway.
Stand up and do it.
Story.
We are.
Good.
So boastful.
40
When
grand on
in doubt, blame the
Bonadeo.
Yes, definitely.
Apparently, there's a lot of that going around. I read something today that was written in the newspaper.
40 grand on Bonadeo, right?
Was that, Mr. Legislator?
What we do with that report?
It was online already.
Sometimes you have to defend yourself.
You asked? Can we watch, anyone want to pass, I just want pizza that for me, is it go past 10?
Well, yeah.
No, we're an hour and a half away from 10
We
o'clock.
all kinda.
I'm banking on 11. That's fine.
That's what I said, if it goes, I think
But
it's go past 10, then we
so-
can do $15.
Pizza? Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, Greg?
Boy, it is being
silly.
Greg?
Excuse me, they're gonna start the meeting.
Please join us. Please, welcome to join us. Thank you.
Join us up here.
Sorry. That's right. Okay, are we back in session and recording?
Yes.
Good. Okay, welcome. We're going to move the agenda around a little bit more today because things get boring unless we do that. Next, I'd like to call up item number 7, discussion, rule number 33 of the legislative manual. We have our Director of Personnel, Paul Eldridge. We're going to ask him to keep it clean tonight, please.
Oh.
Not like last time.
All right, I'll see you later.
All right. Thank you, Paul, for coming.
I have Adrian
And Adrian,
Sony.
of course. Thank you. Welcome for being here, guys. Just as a bit of an intro, we're all familiar with the legislative manual discussions we've been having over the last couple of months. And what we did at our last full board meeting, we went ahead and put in abeyance 4 of our legislative manual rules that were adopted back in January, one of which is before us tonight. That's rule number 33 of the legislative manual, and this has to do with the confirmation process of appointees from the county executive that have to be confirmed by the county legislature. Rule number 33 is a new rule, and some of the language in there that was originally in the rule, I had a very productive conversation back, I think it was in mid-January, maybe end of January with your office, Paul?
I think it ended January.
Yeah, the two of you and Patty as well.
Yes.
And we went over some of the rules that were in there and how perhaps some of them might have proved to be problematic. And so what we've got before us tonight, and this is not for adoption tonight, this is just discussion. We have a revised Rule 33. It's on the first page of the item, but if you want to take a look at what was taken out, what was kept in or put back in, the blue and the reds or the red line is on the second page. And Paul, if you want to walk us through some of that and maybe go over some of the points you and I and Adrian and Patty talked about, in particular maybe the background checks and the and also the judgment liens that were originally part of that rule that are being considered to be taken up tonight, and maybe some of the problems that they may have arisen.
I'll start with the judgment and liens because that's an easy one.
Okay.
The way this was written, it basically indicated that the standing chair of the committee
yes.
would, reach out to the county clerk and county clerks of 5 other counties to check on any liens and judgments that might exist that that person would have. There's nothing, really wrong with that. I'm not sure really what that will do in terms of helping, confirm or not confirm somebody. What I can tell you is, in talking with our county clerk, all of these judgments, liens, and so forth are public record. The issue is, to get them from other counties, you have to pay for that. Now, it's not a lot of money, so I'm sure that is not a problem, but, to have a committee chair, seek to have that information, certainly could be done. We could probably do it as well. I'm not sure, checking the counties that are listed, that will, particularly be helpful. If somebody lived in Danbury or, and most people are in these counties that are listed, but I just, as a sample, I went on to the Putnam County one, and I asked Mike if I could just kind of, see what's there for me. And, it was the satisfaction of a mortgage. So, it's a piece of information. I just don't know how important it is or productive it is, yeah. The more important one, I think, in terms of the way it was previously written, was the criminal background check.
Yes.
And, doing that there's a lot of rules and regulations that you have to follow related to that. And bear with me, I just want to pull out, because I put a different folder for each one of the items here, so I wasn't sure which ones you picked, but let me just pull out criminal background checks. There's a lot of laws related to the conduct of criminal background checks. And to do that properly, to do a statewide and to do a national criminal background check, in order to access that information, there's only certain agencies that are allowed to do that. So a chair of a committee that might want to do that would probably not have any success, other than perhaps maybe getting something straight from the county. But what happens is, there's 4 agencies, at least the 4 that, to my knowledge and to Adrian's knowledge, that have what is called an ORI number, which is an originating agency identifier. And you also have to have a TAC, a terminal access coordinator. And you have to have a contract with New York State to have an ability to access criminal records. Now, there is the Clean Slate Act, which is a little different, and we could just touch on that briefly a little bit after this. But of the 4 agencies that in the county that have an OR number and have a TAC, the Sheriff's Office, which is pretty obvious, the Probation Department, the Bureau of Emergency Services, and Personnel. And personnel is authorized under the Civil Service Law, Section 50. So it has to be for appropriate purposes, and in order to achieve that, there was a change in the law probably about 10 or 12 years ago that changed Section 50, and it added Section 4D, which authorized us to have that ability to do background checks. Obviously, the Sheriff's Office and all of the employees that work in the Sheriff's Office, they have an ORI, they have the TAC, and so forth. But it took us probably a year and a half to get through the process of getting the ability to have an ORI and to have a TAC. Yep. They also do audits to verify that you're using the information correctly, you destroy it in an appropriate time frame, and so forth. She's our TAC, the Terminal Access Coordinator. And so we've been using that for a number of years now. We use it primarily for folks that are in, obviously there's law enforcement, but it's for anybody that's in a safety sensitive position. There are some other categories, public officers, for example. And correct me if I'm wrong, I missed any of these.
Yes, yeah.
Say it again?
Child
All-
DSS, so
yeah.
child protective
Yep.
caseworkers, youth program specialists in the youth bureau, anyone who has regular and significant contact with children.
So those, there's certain categories for that, so, and I think we just had an audit in December, was it, November,
Yes.
December? And we had passed, having properly, or proper procedures in place. We also do, as a part of the background check, we do the sex offender database, which is New York State and national.
And that is a public site, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
It is. We do drug testing, I think everybody knows that we do that, pre-employment drug testing.
For certain positions, or?
We do it for all positions.
All positions, okay.
In terms of the types of positions that you're hired for, there are different panels or number of panels that you're allowed to do. So for the majority of our employees, it's a 4-panel drug test. If you're gonna be a police officer or a correction officer, it's a 10-panel. And so we do that on a regular basis. We have an outside company that actually does that for us, and they send either Adrian or myself the results. And based upon that, we take any action that we need to do. For all of our drivers, our DOT safety, for CDLs and so forth, all of those folks have DOT drug tests. That's by the U.S. Department of Transportation regulations. We've been doing that since, I think, 1986. If you had more than 50 employees, you had to start as of January 1st of '85. If you had less than that, you started January 1st of '86. At the time, we had 38. So we started January 1st of '86. So we've been doing that for a very long time. And there's procedures in terms of the results of that. So those that have been in my office have probably seen that I have a safe or two. Drug test results have to be put into a very secure location. And years ago, when Dave Groom was getting rid of a very large safe in the finance
Our former
department.
county exec.
Our first
First
county
county
exec.
exec, yeah.
It was sitting in the hallway. He said, "What are you doing with that?" He said, "We're getting rid of it." I said, "Can we bring it over to personnel?" And so folks did bring it over to personnel. We've been using it ever since. We actually have 3. But there is a process for retaining those and also, destroying them in an appropriate time frame. Also, public officers, there's a criminal background check to ensure conformity with public officers law, section 3. There are some other concerns in terms of the information that you get. And we've had a couple of situations across the years that, again, because we were very familiar with handling this kind of information, we were able to vet it properly. But there can be inadvertent violations of the law if you're not careful. So there are certain things that you need to be aware of, such as the age of the person at the time of the offense, the time period that's elapsed since the offense, whether there's a nexus between the position that you're looking to hire them and their offense, the seriousness of it, and a number of other items. There's 8 in total. But it's important to know that there is a system for this, and it would be difficult for a chair of a committee, difficult in the sense that to be aware of all this, but also you have to have an ORI number, so you wouldn't get very far. So that's pretty square kind of situation on that.
Yep, no, thank you for both of those. And like I said, when I had met with the 2 of you and also Patty, you enlightened me to a lot of these things that I wasn't aware of. So I'm glad that you were able to do that. I'm glad you're able to share it with the rest of us tonight and the public at large. And in that vein, as you can see, and again, this is just a suggestion, we're not voting on anything tonight. As you can see in the red line, those 2 items have been stricken from Rule 33. What I'd like to turn to next is the blue section, the one where it's in addition to Rule 33. And I think this will also take care of another problem that you may have identified with respect to the, what I was concerned about there is, we want to avoid any kind of conflicts of interest. When we're, part of our confirmation job is to make sure that we vet the candidates that the county executive puts before us. And, your office does that to the nines, and we rely on you for that, and you're always here as a candidate to be vetted. But one of the things we want to be careful of is to, and this delves into a little bit of the, which is also stricken in this rule, the campaign finance provisions of this rule, which are being reconsidered. But in place of that, what we've done, or what I've done, and again, this is just a suggestion, is we would want a candidate for office, for appointment, to just sign a document to say that they have no interest in a county contract. And those two words, interest and contract, are defined by the New York State General Municipal Law. And in that sense, what we're trying to do, and is, you've probably already done this, but for the public's sake and everything we want to do in public, to make sure that there's no county department head who, unbeknownst to us, might have an interest in whether it's a transportation contract or I'm just picking to the DSS contract or something like that, that they would just go on the record and say, I've vetted this with the county law department, we can give a list of all county contractors in the county, just the names of county contractors, and we could put that before a candidate for office, for appointment, and they could look that over. Inadvertently, they may own stock in something that they didn't know about. And this isn't a disqualifier, it would just have to be a disclosure. And so what I've done here is put in there just a statement that they don't have an interest in a county contract. And if they do, we can vet it, because it might, I'll get you a second, it might be something worth exploring. We did at a time, as you're familiar, we did have a county department head who was also at the same time simultaneously a county contractor, believe it or not. We had that back in the mid-aughts, I think, 07, 08, 09. And it was completely public. It was nothing that was hidden. It was nothing that was in the newspaper. It was talked about. It was a county department head, a commissioner level department head, who was also the owner of the company that ran our county golf course. And again, this was nothing furtive. This was nothing behind anybody's back. It was just something that the controller had to come down and say was a no-no. But this is an effort to perhaps, unbeknownst to us, avert something like that in the future. So I've kind of swapped out the public finance election portion of it with this, and I think that might be a good proxy to discussing that. Before I go to the legislators, I just want to get Paul's thoughts on that. Then I'll go to Erin and then to Bill. Oh, actually, to the committee first, Bill, and then Greg, and then to the legislators. Do you have any thoughts on both of those?
Well, I like it a lot better than the other one.
Yeah.
The only thing I came up with that is if there was somebody that divested themselves of a company, their company or whatever, and then was applying, so we'd have to have proof of that if they were in any way connected with a company that did business with the county. But on its face, I didn't see this as a significant problem, and I thought it was a good way to be an alternate to what was proposed before.
Okay. And you can help us with some language maybe, if to
We could.
tighten this up a little bit?
We could.
Okay, and the law department as well maybe? Okay, good. Bill?
When we do our financial disclosure every year, we have a question like that on it, don't we?
We do. The issue here is this is a candidate for appointment, and the way the general municipal law is written, it's for officers and employees. It's not about candidates.
Okay.
So, but you do have to file it once you become an officer and you're a candidate, and you don't want to find out then. So it does sound like it's a reasonable way to do this.
One other question.
Of course.
If someone discloses that they do have, that situation, and they apply for a position and they don't get that job, but they are really the most qualified individual, could that individual come back and say, sue the county for that situation and win, because we're in a lawsuit and they didn't get that because they have another job?
I'd probably pass that on to the law department.
Law department's right behind you.
Through the chair, if I may.
And we're all speaking hypothetically here, too.
Hypothetically. So anybody can sue anyone for anything at any time. It doesn't mean they're necessarily going to win. As long as the county is completely upfront and forward with the timeline as far as what is being considered, what must be disclosed, what actions must be taken, and when they're officially hired. Again, we're talking hypothetically, we should be covered, but I do understand the concern, because, yes, if I were a potential appointee, and then I divest my interest in a company, and then I don't get appointed, I would probably be a little sour about that as well. But I do think we would be protected ultimately. It's something that if it ever came up, we would look into it at that point.
Thank you.
Great.
Paul, Adrian, I'd like to have your thoughts on this blue area where it says that any such appointee has no interest. I'd like to strengthen that appointee or potential appointee or potential appointee spouse.
That's interesting, because on our disclosures,
It
we
does
have
ask that.
spouse, yeah.
Yes, it does ask that, so that would be.
Yeah, I want to
something
make
we
sure
could
it's
take a look
completely
at.
in arm's length. And the other thing is, are we going, you know, a contract versus doing business? Are we broad enough? Do we need to extend this?
Can you give me an example of that?
Someone, this is a hypothetical, someone owns a stationery business and departments are buying paper from that business. There's no contract, but they're doing business with the county.
Well, it might be a contract, it might be on the state bid, it could be, you
That's
know.
covered in municipal law, 18
Yeah, but what I'm getting is I'm trying to be as broad as we can to make sure that there is as much ethics and arm's length. And I know on our disclosures, I believe the term is business, not contract.
I think
On the
they might
financial
both be
disclosure
used,
form,
but
they might both, yeah.
Good, thank you. Erin?
I was gonna kind of echo a little bit, actually what Greg had to say. So we're also, we may be elected, but we're also employees of the county as legislators. And in the past, we've had legislators who were on committees or sat in different places and may have held contracts with the county that were undisclosed.
They're elected.
But we should
well-
be held to the same standard as appointed.
And that would be found when they file the financial disclosure.
Right, so.
And I'm not quite sure how people, I know there's a political process to get somebody to run for office, whether they do any vetting like that.
I'm
ahead of time.
just asking, because we are also employees as well, and if we're gonna hold candidates' feet to the coals, I do feel like we should hold our feet to the coals in the same token, you know, if I have, you know, a certain kind of business and I wanna do business with the county, I should have to be open and transparent about it. One, I'm doing ethics, whatever, but I mean, in the past, we've had several elected officials who have had contracts or done business with the county, and it's gone unnoticed and it's just okay. And I really think that we also should maybe include in there something for the legislature to look into that, where it's some sort of, you know, I know it's on our disclosure, but it's also maybe in here that we add an addendum to us that we are also required to, you know, kind of do the same thing. If we're going to have an outside, you know, agency, if we're gonna work with an outside agency that we own or whatever, if we have a relationship with them, or if we own a certain kind of business and we wanna do something with the county, it should be there.
Conrad, do you have a point on that?
Yes, through the chair, if I may.
And then
I see that is something potentially ripe for discussion. I will just say, in the hopes of helping the meeting move along, that specific thing may be more appropriate for either being in the code or the charter.
Okay.
As opposed to a
true,
legislative
true,
mandate.
yes. Amy, then Nancy?
So, and just keeping us all on track here, we're talking about appointments that come down from the county executive's office. We're not talking about employees at DOT, we're not talking about elected officials, we're not talking about deputies. This is specifically appointments by the county executive. And to that end, how many appointments does a county executive potentially have? Do you have that?
Every department head, other than those that are elected, I would say it's probably 16 to 20. Obviously, there's appointments to boards and whatevers, but as far as department heads or commissioners that are not elected, I think it has to be in the 15 to 20 range. I don't think it's more than that.
So 15 to 20 that the county executive would appoint that would potentially be vetted through the legislature. Because there are other board positions that might not be vetted through the legislature. So
Correct.
that's all we're talking about is these 15 to 20
Just
positions.
those that come up for confirmation.
Okay. Yeah, just wanna make sure we circle back to that particular point, because we're not talking about
The other
the
thing
rest
is
of the
that-
employees of the
Yeah.
county.
For us, as a personnel department, in civil service, we're involved with what's called the classified service, and all electeds are in the unclassified service, and there, forgive my ignorance, but I know there's a political process that maybe does some vetting of candidates.
It's very boring and
Yeah.
that's, you know, doesn't generate any interest.
So, well, that's probably why I didn't, have a major interest in it, But, so it might be helpful to know what that process is and see how, but again, it's elected, they're unclassified, it would not be anything that we would have any authority to review.
Amy, then Nancy?
Just one last point is, of those 15, 20 positions, many of them have terms. So for example, we have like a 6-year term for the personnel director. There's other that have specific terms.
Yes.
So this isn't gonna be something that's gonna come up every year. And I think it's worth vetting these particular candidates because they're gonna have they could potentially have a 6-year term.
Sure.
In Putnam County. And it's also vetted by the legislature, so that's the reason for this.
Bear in mind too, after they are vetted for confirmation, that they have to file this financial disclosure on an annual basis. So there is a record that has to be reviewed,
It'd be better to have it vetted out before.
Absolutely.
Rather than catching something after the fact, because that's a little bit more tricky. If you have a 6-year term and you find something, then it's gonna be a little more.
Sure. Oh, I'm thinking you do
money.
both. You do both, yeah, you do the
Yeah.
vetting up front and then you do it every year thereafter.
Nancy?
I wonder how much of this is covered under our state regulations. For example, the New York State Board of Health and their guidelines for a health commissioner, which is appointed by the county executive. And all of that is, and I'm sure some of this is included in that. And to Legislator Elmer's point about what does it mean? What's a contract? And that's defined in the General Municipal Law 18, where contracts examples are purchase agreements, sale agreements, leases, construction agreements, and service contracts. Even a voucher can be a contract because it's a claim, account, or demand. And then I have one more thing. So I think a lot of this is covered already, so it's.
One thing I'll make as a differentiation to that, and that is that there are state laws that exist, civil service law, and I think, we shared some with Dan, state law and civil service law related, for example, to campaign contributions and so forth. So there is a lot. There's the correctional law has some other information in it related to, considering somebody and how long it's been, since you had the offense, what your age was and so forth, getting a certificate of relief from disabilities, which probably the lawyers in the room are familiar with. And so, you're right, there's a lot that is dictated in state law, and that does fall down to us in terms of those kinds of situations, such as with the civil service law and so forth. So you are not discriminating against somebody inappropriately, or discrimination in any situation would be inappropriate.
Yeah, I just don't like redundancy, but if we are going to do this, my question, which might be to council, the council in the room, is if we were going to put that clause in about divested themselves of their company before they took employment here, it's kind of a fine line.
If it was a company that had a contract
With the county, could we put a provision that says, has to have been divested for a period of time, for a year, I know, I forget when I was on the town board, you couldn't be appointed to a rec commission, right after you served as council or something, just putting a time provision in there.
Through the chair, if I may. So the general language that we use that pertains to something like this, whether it's general municipal law or even in our code, has to do with whether there's a conflict of interest. And what we can do is, instead of making any specific requirements about divestments, period of time and whatnot, we can put some language in there with regard to ensuring that there is no conflict of interest. Now what that means, again, we can go by what's in our own code and what is in the general municipal law, and that whatever is a conflict isn't present for that particular appointment. But we would have to work on the wording of that and whatever the committee thinks is appropriate.
And as Conrad and Nancy pointed out earlier, this just pertains to our processes confirming officials. There may be other questions that Nancy's raising that, and you brought up as well, that might be better appropriate in the code.
Also true.
Yeah, true.
Again, I just wanna make a comment that we haven't compared side by side what's really in general municipal law and what's here, and I feel like it's redundant, and, as a fan of not too much government, I guess we could not even bother continuing.
Well, for those of us who do want to continue, are there any legislators who haven't spoken yet who want to speak? If not, I'll go to Greg and then Aaron.
Through the chair to Paul and Conrad, hypothetical, what if one employee has significant interest, whatever that percentage is, in a public corporation that the county is doing business? Do we have any provisions for that? Or what Nancy has said, has that been, or is that in general municipal law? I do not know. And just, for example, someone owns 5% of IBM. And IBM has a contract with the county to provide some sort of data services.
The financial disclosure law actually asks that exact question. Do you have 5% or more of an interest in any company? And then I think it would be inherent to see.
But again, but that's under disclosure.
Yeah,
This is
right.
before the appointment.
Right. Well, it could be a similar question, I suppose.
I just want to go to Aaron first.
Sure.
Aaron.
I'm sorry, it's a long way. So somebody had proposed possibly doing this before we even consider them for the appointment. What is their cost of this background check that comes? Is there a cost, or do we just pay a licensing fee per year? How does that work?
Oh, in terms of the criminal the fingerprinting?
Well, the whole, whatever we agree upon, like whatever you do for a regular employee that you would do for an appointment, would it make sense, is it fiscally responsible to do it until they have it, like, kind of are on the cusp of being hired, and that's the last step instead of one of the first steps, because it might be very costly?
Right, typically it would be post-offer. So it would be, once there's an offer made, if it wasn't for confirmation, right, a regular employee coming on board, and it's about $100
Oh,
to
that's,
fingerprint
okay.
it. So,
Yeah, you get a state one and you can do it with the FBI, and I think it might be slightly more than that, but it's in the ballpark of $100, $110, something like that.
that would be maximum.
Yes.
No, go. Do we need fingerprinting? Like, I have to do a background check because I'm a mentor for kids,
Right.
and it's like, it costs me like $25.
That's a part, that's not to the extent that you get from the FBI and DCJS.
Do we need our department heads to be fingerprinted, and is that what we're looking for?
Well, this is
Yeah.
people being considered for appointment
Okay.
as a department head.
Do we do that now? Do we do?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, yes, if it's a public officer position,
Okay.
because that's required in the law.
thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Tony?
Thank you. Speaking of that, when I worked for the school, we had to get fingerprints,
Absolutely
but I had
have
to pay for it. It was over $100.
Yes.
So we could
Yes.
put the cost, they could
You
pay
could.
for it, somebody who's,
Absolutely.
that could be something else that wouldn't cost the county
Yes.
money, the
Yeah.
person who's applying for the job.
Which
Absolutely.
they,
I'm
we
having a
do
hard enough
now.
time getting people, Tony.
Well, that.
Sorry.
But the
Retention and
candidate
recruitment
does
is an
pay.
issue, yeah.
Oh, they do
For the
pay for it.
fingerprinting,
Oh, they
yes.
do pay for it.
Yeah, some entities will reimburse.
Oh,
if that's
okay.
available, but
Okay.
we pay for the drug screening, but.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other legislator have any comments? Any member of the public have any comment on this? Oh, Paul, I'm sorry.
Just one other item in here,
Yeah.
and it goes back to the references.
Yes.
And I think you
Oh, the
probably.
written references, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you probably read what I had written previously when the issue came up about doing references. And under several aspects of the law, it's considered to be private information,
Okay.
personal and confidential information. And so we would just add a little bit to your second, it's actually under A, it's the second dash, I guess. Something to the effect that the appointee being considered and the fingerprint, or excuse me, the references would be maintained under confidential cover not to be released to the public pursuant to Public Officers Law and it's section 82 BI.
And if anybody were to release that, that would probably be a misdemeanor, wouldn't it?
It actually, I believe it is.
Yeah, okay, so that's well worth putting in there then too. So, and you had given us some advice recently on another matter, and that was advice well taken.
We did
Yes.
document that for you.
Yeah, Nancy.
It's for the bond lawyer.
Well, I'm here as a legislator,
Do
I'm
we
not here as
sell
an attorney.
bonds? Do we sell municipal bonds here?
I'll defer to the Commissioner of Finance on that, I don't know what our current
Like,
sale
what
process
if
is.
what if I hold, you know, budget Putnam County municipal bonds?
That's okay, it's the 5%.
5%.
Yeah,
threshold.
yeah.
If you're gonna hold 5% of it, you're doing
Yeah,
really well.
I'm just saying, you heard how
Good
rich
for
I
you,
am,
Nancy.
right?
I know.
Good for you. Yeah, 5% of those bonds, okay.
That's a good point, though. Any members of the public want to speak on this? Please, join us. Welcome.
Hi, I just have a question.
Sure.
You know, somebody left there.
Oh.
Yes, Shamrock. I just had a quick question. You know, since you're going through the FBI and everything for background checks, would it be easier to get a lie detector test done through the sheriff's department, you know, about morality and things like that? Could you do something like that?
For police officers, it's now required. We've been doing lie detector tests or polygraphs since 2006. It was recommended by what's called DCJS, the Division of Criminal Justice Services. They recommended it, we started to do it. It then became mandatory in '23 for everybody, so we were used to it, we've been doing it. Psychologicals are done. So that is a tool. I think it is used in court cases and can be reliable there, but it's not considered as firm, if you will, than other,
I get
than
that.
obviously checking the actual.
I'm just saying, you know, just to weed out somebody that might not be quite right, you know, you might wanna go there and then
It's an option.
further? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's a good point. Any other discussion? This item is just a discussion item tonight. We're not passing it, but Paul and Adrian, thank you so much for joining us tonight on St. Patrick's Day. Thank you. I know we started this meeting 2.5 hours ago, so thank you. Sincerely, thank you for being here and sticking around for so long. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Well, I want to say also thank you for giving us the opportunity to have some input on it.
No, thank you.
That's
And-
appreciated.
And we've got some other rules that will, over the next few months, we're gonna talk about too, which you and the law department have given us some good advice on, so we'll be back again. Stay tuned. Thank you, guys. What I'd like to do is go back into regular order. The next item is item number 5, and again, both 5 and 6 are discussion items. The first item is number 5, discussion amendment to the legislative manual, live streaming legislative meetings. And what I'd like to do first is just make a public announcement that I guess starting next month, we are no longer, next week actually, we're not gonna be meeting in this room. We're gonna be meeting downstairs in room 102 because we're getting our elevator, if not replaced, severely reconstructed. So because of the Americans with Disabilities Act, we shouldn't, and probably can't have the meeting here. We're gonna have our meetings, these committee meetings anyway, downstairs in room 102. That's fully accessible, especially now that we have the new ramp there in the front of the building. But the reason I say that is because that may also impinge upon the live streaming as well. It might not, maybe we can still do it, I don't know. But I'll open up for discussion among the committee. First, I know Legislator Crowley, you had brought this up at the last meeting. Any comments on live streaming? We're doing it now. We've been doing it under Legislator Yonke's tenure as chairman. When did we start that, Paul?
Is it April? We started it last year, but it was funded back in, I think on the 2023 budget.
Okay.
So when but it took a long time. The history behind it was, and those of us who served here during COVID know how difficult it was to do our meetings, just the broadcasting that we did for all the committee meetings and the full meetings. It was very difficult.
the IT department, worked very hard at trying to create something that would allow us to conduct our meetings. It was under Chairman Sullivan, his last year here, he put $60,000 into the budget, which we used last year. Well, it took about a year and a half to get the equipment, get IT to install. This was not their only project, but it was about last April that we began live streaming here. There were some test runs leading up to it, and I think finally about in April last year, we began here. And I know since then, we've been able, the historic courthouse, that's not an easy venue to work at either, and I know that we've begun the live streaming there. And we still have a ways to go. We got an email tonight from a constituent. We do have new microphones, so hopefully the audio will be better. But we still have a ways to go. It's a work in progress.
Thank you, and thank you for your efforts in putting in former legislator Sullivan too. Any committee members on this bill, anything? No? Any members of the legislature? Karen, please.
So I am very thankful that we have been live streaming, that we've gotten it up and running in the historic courthouse. Thankful for the new microphones. I do sometimes watch them to prepare for meetings and just go back. I do it with the Carmel Town Board meetings because I can't make it, school board meetings because I can't make it. There are many different reasons why it's important that we do this. And I understand that we have, Legislator Yonke is saying we have a long way to go. I'm not exactly sure of what the long way to go is that you're referring to, so I don't know if you want to elaborate there.
Sure. Of course. I think the audio is terrible here. I think the video has room for improvement.
Not all of us are ready for our close-ups.
I don't watch a lot of the videos. I don't really, after experiencing them live, I don't really feel the need to go back and watch them again. And I haven't really watched what's going on in the courthouse. I have seen the broadcast. I assume that the live streams are very similar to the recorded videos that we used to have. But if you think that those are state of the art or where we need to be, I disagree with you. I think they need to be improved.
So,
of course.
So we always have room to improve with anything we do. And we are currently live streaming. So we're just codifying what we have there, but again, like we've done so many times in this legislature, we've pushed things forward and we fix them as we go. We've done that with multiple different things in the past year. And I think, with this, it increases transparency, it enhances public trust, it gives wider public access, improved legislative accountability, educational opportunities, provides an excellent resource to those looking to learn about how government works. Students, researchers, and the general public can all benefit from watching real-time debates and hearings, efficient public participation. I mean, there's so many good things, and even if we're not 100%, we're still 100% better than where we were on SoundCloud, and 100% better than where we were on YouTube before we got new microphones. We're always adding and making it better, and we're always gonna have new technology that's evolving that can be better. But codifying live streaming is not about being the best of the best, because if that was the case, we wouldn't have spent, how much, it was $60,000 that was set aside. We would have spent several hundred thousands of dollars in order, paid a guy to run it and have a mixer in the back, if that was the case, to make sure we had the ultimate audio and everything else. That's not what we did. We did what we thought was fiscally responsible to give the public and our constituents the ability to watch from home, seniors, people who are disabled, people who don't have the time to get here. We gave them that opportunity, and all we're doing is codifying it. We can always make it better. We can always add new technology.
You're saying don't make the perfect the enemy of the good, which I agree with. Yeah. No,
Well, I hope with that you'll make a motion to vote on this tonight.
Oh,
I
well,
know
it's just discussion.
I know, but I'm just telling you from my heart to yours on St. Patrick's Day that I hope you'll make a motion to vote on this night to move it forward, if that's the case.
Thank you. Bill?
Thank you. Why would we not put live streaming in our manual? we seem to be micromanaging everything that we do here since January. Let me give you an example. Item 5B in the legislative manual states, the seating of members of the county legislature at the legislative dais during any meeting set forth in paragraph A above shall be the following order. The chair shall occupy the center seat of the legislative dais. The remaining members of the legislature shall be seated at the legislative dais from left when viewing the legislative dais from the west. If we're micromanaging where we're sitting, why don't we put this in the manual also? So I make a motion to put this, to vote, I make a motion to put this on a full legislative meeting to vote on it, whether we pass it or not pass it. We need to put this out there.
Through committee.
I will confess to being a bit of a policy nerd. Those are my words, Bill. You're absolutely right.
Okay,
And
well,
actually,
thanks for taking credit for it. If you want to micromanage, we have to look at it from the west,
Well,
or
if
from
I-
left to right.
if I can finish. In fact, Diane actually gives me some grief every now and then. You know, we do our class picture at the beginning of every year. And you have your chart each year, and our seating is arranged in a particular order, and that's sprouted from me 25 years ago. So I do admit to being a bit of a policy nerd.
And there's a lot of policy then.
What's that? Well, I'm not saying we wouldn't, but I think we do need to discuss it a bit more. And because there are some other discussions that folks might want to have about it. It's great that we're doing it. First of all, if we don't put it in the manual tonight, there's no harm because we're doing it anyway. We're live streaming this meeting, we're live streaming our full one. So, you know, we could continue to talk about it and still getting done.
Why would we not do it today?
Is there a second?
You can second it.
I can. But I'd like to review the videotape tonight when we go home to see if I did or not. Thank you. Greg?
One of the things which I really think we should consider is because, and I'm speaking for myself, is that sometimes these meetings can get pretty heated, and sometimes some of the language can get pretty flowery, and it may not be a bad idea having a slight delay. A minute or, okay.
So it
I hear
could be
from council,
censored?
you know, maybe a minute or a two.
You can't censor.
Well, guys, Greg's got the floor.
I didn't
You know,
hear
I'm,
this. I didn't
throw it
hear
out for discussion, because I mean, if you remember, I campaigned on making everything
Censoring.
accessible, so I agree. And I'm the one who said the audio was not acceptable and got the new microphones. And I also suggested to IT that this camera setup was not what we should have. We should have had multiple cameras. So in concept, I'm completely in favor of this, but we're a work in progress, and let's make it better.
Anybody who hasn't spoken yet? I'll get Amy, then Nancy, then Bill and Aaron.
I've looked through other counties' codes and charters, and I certainly don't have a problem putting this, even further into the code.
Yeah.
I don't see what the
Our
problem
manual,
is
you
with
mean?
this.
Oh, you mean into the code itself?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
beyond our
as far as
manual?
legislative process,
Okay.
in the legislative section. Plenty of other legislatures have put it in there, and they make sure that it is codified so that people can count on the fact that it's being broadcast so that they have access. I would just like to make it clear that there are times, like next week, we would have to put something in there because we have to err on the side of the American Disabilities Act, hopefully trying to get it live streamed, but we can't cut off our nose to spite our face when it comes to something like that. And it has to be something to make room for that. What happens if it falls off? Or there's been legislators around that want to have meetings all over the county. Do we have to set up a camera every place we go? I don't think that's excessive.
Guys,
I think having it clear, I have no problem with putting it in the code, the legislative manual minimum. But we have to make room for changes.
Okay, good. Nancy?
I have a couple things,
Sure.
if I may.
Of course.
One is, did this pass through committee last month?
Well, there's no this before us tonight. We don't have a resolution before us tonight. We just have a discussion item.
Okay, was there a resolution that passed for live streaming, codifying live streaming in the legislative manual?
Yes.
That passed
There
through
was a very
committee?
specific resolution written by legislator Aaron. And, well, I was gonna say Aaron, we're friends here. There was some it was passed unanimously out of this committee, and then it was removed from the agenda because certain legislators felt that they needed more discussion, and that's quite frankly why we're having a discussion tonight, and I think it's a good thing.
Okay, that's what this is, but, I can't find it now, and I think it was in 2023 where I presented the legislature, you weren't on the legislature, with, proposal that was probably in the amount of less than $20,000 for equipment. So if you go to any of your small municipal meetings, your town board meetings, your village meetings, and you could see how they do it. I know Cold Spring Village, the clerk has the camera on top of her computer, and it just remotely moves as people are talking sometimes. Sound quality's great. I got that company, they gave me the proposal. They're actually a Carmel company. They were about to come in here to check out the room and give you a solid proposal, but that's when I think Legislator Yonke or Legislator Sullivan, I think Legislator Yonke wrote to my request to do live streaming was, we're not doing it, it's not state mandated, we don't have to do it. So here we are, 2025, still talking about equipment and not, being anxious about going into the room downstairs, that we won't be able to do it, and if we codify it, we're breaking the code. I mean, it's 2025, it's really easy to live stream a meeting from anywhere, from anything, from any device. So I'm not sure why this is so complicated. What it does tell me is that there's resistance to live streaming from this committee, with the exception of Legislator Goldman. And I think you're resisting it. I know you ran on it, but you've been in office for a really long time, and it hasn't happened yet. So why don't you make a motion that we move this resolution that Legislator Crowley put forward, move that resolution forward to the fall. And if you're not going to, then maybe Chairwoman Sage can put her money where her mouth is and put it on as other business during the full legislative meeting, and let's get this done.
I'll move to Bill next, but I would note that the good thing is, despite all of this, we're still live streaming. Nobody's saying we shouldn't live stream. Nobody's saying we should have nobody's implementing a 5-second or 50-second delay. We're talking about it. That's all we're doing about right now with it, and we're talking about it in the public, and we're talking about it on live stream. So the good thing is, nothing's gonna change. We got Bill and Aaron.
I'll pass.
Aaron, go ahead.
So with the elevator, with the Americans with Disabilities Act, how long is the elevator gonna be down for?
About 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks, yeah.
6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And how are we gonna handle that?
I'm gonna get a good tripod.
Well, yeah, well, I'm thinking, I don't think it's.
No, well, we
I don't
can
think-
handle,
I don't think it's gonna be difficult. I think.
no, we could do it the same way as we do at the full,
Yeah.
the exact same way.
There's no mounted cameras in the.
No, but we have somebody that comes and
We have
we
somebody
pay
comes.
them to
Okay,
come.
all right, but might be money well
I'll
spent.
just
Okay,
do it.
and then-
I'm not on a committee, I'll do it. I have no problem filming.
I'm also a little curious as to why, you have number 7 on there, which was the rule that you brought forth.
Yep.
And you kindly provided us with backup on that, and I'm appreciative. With my items 5 and 6, there was no backup. Is there a reason why the rule wasn't added in as backup?
Yeah, because they're all three are treated the same way, because Rule 33 is, if you recall, at our full board meeting, we voted unanimously to hold that in abeyance. So the fact that nothing is being moved out of this committee with respect to 5 and 6, the same thing is true with item 7. We didn't vote on item number 7 tonight, we just simply discussed it.
No, just backup. How come the backup isn't in there for people to be able to refer to if they wanted
Because
to reread
there are
it?
other legislators who told me that they wanted to submit some backup separate and apart from yours, and I wanted to give them the opportunity to have that discussion as well. And they were not ready tonight to do it.
Was that submitted?
No, they weren't ready tonight, that's why it's not submitted.
Okay, so with that being said, I appreciate all of the people who've been imperative in getting us to this, beautiful camera, these great microphones. We are a long ways away from when I used to listen to you guys on SoundCloud, and if you didn't know whose voice it was, you were playing Go Fish, okay? Thank God I was privy enough to visit enough meetings to know who was who, okay? There is always gonna be room for improvement. It's down for 6 to 8 weeks. there's no reason why like the town of Carmel does. They actually have 2 meetings a year where they move to the fire department, and they have to live stream from the fire department. And they do that. I don't understand why a small municipality that is only, 37,000 people can do it. Well, they did. No, he's right, but that's my point. They can do that, but the point is that we can do this. There's MEVOs, there's all different things that you can do, that we can do to make this happen, and it's so simple. And to say about the sound quality is never gonna be good enough, we're always gonna have to improve. So to push it forward and then have to make small adjustments isn't life-changing. We're making it better for our community, for the people that can't get here, the people that elect us, the people that want us in these seats to make the right choices for them. You go out there and you're knocking doors, I'm doing it right now, and that's what they're telling me. And I'm sure Greg is hearing the exact same thing.
I wish I was, but I'm not.
Well, I find it hard to believe, maybe knock a couple more doors.
The good thing is, I don't think anybody has ruled out any of the things you're talking about. I think we're discussing them, and I don't have anything to disagree with what you've been saying. I mean, the technology is such a...
Make a motion, put it through?
Well,
Or
because
second my motion.
because like
If
I
you don't
said,
disagree, then do it.
because like I said, there were some other ideas that need to be
We
vetted.
pushed through a whole manual with no committee.
Paul?
Thank you. Just to be clear, I'm not opposed to codifying any of this. When I mentioned that we have a long way to go, it's not stopping me from supporting putting this in the code. So just to be clear, I'm the one who made sure that the equipment was here, that we have the microphones. And I want to give credit to Chairwoman Sage. She's the reason why we're live streaming the full over at the courthouse. Right? We did all the work to make this happen. So why would we be opposed to moving forward and codifying?
So do it.
I don't think we're all that far apart. And I don't think it's a bad thing for us to continue to talk about it while we're still live streaming.
And there's no urgency. What's the urgency?
Bill, do you have another point? Yeah.
I do, an interesting last statement you made, Mr. Yonke. What's the urgency? This whole manual, we've been talking about this for 3.5 months, and it was urgent that we got this done the first week in January. I remember multiple years, we passed it with no major problem. Now we're still discussing this. The chairman of this committee put a moratorium on a few different items. Why don't we put a moratorium, pass this, go to the full legislative meeting, pass it, but not go into effect for 8 weeks. That solves your problem, that, we can't see it because of, the state law, the federal law. Pass it, get it. As long as you keep kicking the can down the road, it's gonna be a problem. Get it through.
We're discussing it in public, this is a good thing. I like it. I hope we're not boring people to tears, but I think this is a good thing. I mean, it's democracy, Bill. Let's keep talking about it.
Yes, it is democracy. This is a living document, it changes all the time. So why don't we pass it and then change it next month if it needs to be changed? It is a living document, isn't it? Doesn't it change?
The reason, Bill, is because there's no harm in continuing to talk about it because we're continuing the live stream. We're not doing anything, we're not changing anything.
I make a motion to move on to the next item, nothing but that.
Okay. First of all, I want to see if there's any other legislators, but more importantly, I want to see if the public has anything to say about this. So I don't want to, we don't want to stamp them, do we?
Not at all.
All right.
Dan, Laura.
Well, Laura, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to say that I don't understand why it's a big issue. I come from the town of Patterson, which is kind of small, and since before COVID, they live streamed. But they also allow public recognition via live stream, so you can, it's Zoom, but you can, they open it up to public comment in the audience. Then they allow anybody on Zoom to make any statements or questions. This is the county. And Putnam, Patterson is a little piece of this county, and I'm disappointed that the county can't do something that the little town of Patterson can do without any issue. So I just want to say,
Some good points there.
we do have people here that could get up and speak, but the people that can't make it to the meetings don't have an opportunity to speak.
I hadn't thought about that. That's a
So
good point.
thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Any other legislator have anything to say on this? Any member of the public care to step up and say hello?
Promise it'll be quick.
No, you don't have to be quick.
I
We have an 11 o'clock deadline, you've got an hour and a half, don't worry about it.
I promise I will not use
Okay.
an hour and a half on this. What I, very quickly, what I would say is, one, the technical side of this is not as difficult as it sounds. I've built a multi-million-dollar media company, Livestreaming, where Trey Wingo was in Hawaii, Kurt Warner was in Arizona, and I was here in New York. And we were able to generate millions of views, and we're just trying to get it to like less than 100,000 people in Putnam County. So I feel like, and I've live streamed from the Super Bowl, I've live streamed from the NFL draft, I've live streamed from the scouting combine. The technology is very mobile now. It's very simple. So these types of things don't need to, I think, continue to go round and round. And I think that's what's frustrating as a member of the public is this is like deja vu. For me, I was here on February 19th. This exact conversation, word for word, human for human, mouth for mouth, made the exact same arguments less than a month ago. The only one who wasn't here was legislator Allen, who was on vacation, and glad he's having the opportunity to make his points here. But that could be done in a normal, with the resolution on the floor for a vote. Mr. Elner would have the opportunity to make his comments. That this is a discussion item, again, less than a month later. I love that we're talking about it, but anyone who's owned a business, okay, or anyone who's worked at a semi-large company will tell you the worst thing you can do is have meetings about meetings. And that's what we're doing at this point. We are having a meeting about a meeting about a meeting. It's like the other night at the full legislative meeting, we were having an amendment to an amendment to an amendment. At some point, we just gotta make a decision. And what I hear from every single legislator is there an agreement? Chairwoman Sage wants to put it in the code. Let's put it in the Constitution for all I care, but the reality is we've all agreed. I'm in agreement, I think everyone here is in agreement, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to, but we're all in agreement that we want to move this forward. The discussion is unnecessary. Live streaming is a thing, that the little towns in our county can do it, the county can do it, every legislator who represents every town in the county wants to do it, let's do it. It is easy. I will gladly offer my services to consult and help to make sure it is taxpayer affordable and we can get it done. I can do it. I'm happy to lend that conversation to work with anyone here who wants to do that. Very simple. So that's all. Thank you very much.
We're in the public session now. If we could, we'll come back to you after the public session.
I agree that it should move forward, that's what I got up to say, and what Nancy, that little apparatus that she was talking about is no bigger than my phone, and you can also, you can speak to the people on Zoom, they will be able to answer you back, and thank you, Laura, because that is true. I've gone to, watched meetings at the school board meetings, and you can't, have any interaction. So that would be helpful, and yes, please, for God's sake, let's vote on it. Cheers.
Great, thanks. We've got Nancy, then Greg, then Amy. Oh, I'm sorry, go right ahead, I didn't see you, my apologies.
I guess what I just haven't found out is what is the more discussion that needs to happen to get it to continue? Like, what is the main
Well,
issue?
I'm interested in hearing what you guys are saying, quite frankly.
I'm just wondering what the issue
I
is.
heard about an issue from Laura tonight that I didn't know about.
Well, so what's interesting with that is, so Legislator Yonke had said, okay, the quality and the sound isn't good. I will say, Patterson's sound quality and videos, horrible. But,
Don't take it personally.
you know what I love about that though? I still get to watch, I still get to hear it, I still get to be involved in it. So no one's gonna go, oh, this isn't in 4K, the sound's real bad, and they're not gonna be upset about that. What they're gonna be upset about, and what they are upset about, is that you can't interact, you can't see it. So that's why I wanna know, what is the discussion?
Well,
Is it just
I can
that
answer
it's
that
poor
directly.
quality?
Well, I can answer that directly, because quite frankly, had we not had this meeting tonight, I would not have known that Patterson is doing what they're doing. That was not even in Legislator Crowley's
Why would
resolution.
that necessarily matter?
Well, because I think it's important
Cold
because.
Spring's doing it.
Every town.
Excuse me, I've got the floor. The point I'm talking about is the fact that Laura brought up the fact that people remotely can participate in these meetings. I hadn't even thought about that. I think that's a great
Wouldn't
thing.
that be an amendment down the line of,
It
okay,
could,
you have
sure,
live
but-
streaming codified, it's there, where
But
you can then add that later?
But had we not had this meeting, would we even heard about this? I wouldn't have known about it.
Was there
So
not a
my
meeting
my
about
point
this
point
in
is that
February?
what's that?
And
It wasn't
I'm
discussed in
saying,
February.
I appreciate
That
that you
point
wanna know
wasn't-
more, and that you
yeah.
wanna take more into consideration,
Right.
but to the point here, I mean, we've sat here longer than I want to,
Okay.
right? And it's all the time, we're on certain topics, certain things. I even if I didn't have the ability to pop in, via Zoom, to say words, the ability and knowing that no matter who the chair is, whoever the legislative chair is, the committee chair is, that it's going to happen. I just don't know why there's a push against that to continue to keep talking about it for another 3 months.
Public input, that's my whole,
That is,
that's my
I'm
whole
gonna
gig.
leave that with, that's
whole
my
gig.
public input, and then as far as the delay for profane language, things like that, you don't bar children, if like kids are brought here, which kids sometimes have to be brought because they have to come in person because they're not live streamed, they have to perhaps see that happen. Now, I've been here for a while, I don't think I've seen any crazy profane language, but in the instance, maybe it's a disclaimer, it says, this is real life government, things get wild.
Gotta look out for the potty mouths. We got Nancy, then Greg, then.
One more person.
And, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sure you all know my face by now, Mariel Hanovich. I've watched pretty much all the meetings or been to them since September. So I've seen them all in person. I've also watched most of them, even if I've come to them after the fact, and I don't really have any issue with quality. I can hear what's going on, and to me, I don't care if I can see the hair on your nose at first not. If I can hear it all, I can hear it all, and I can. The other point I just wanted to make is I have a bachelor's in animal management and technology, and I have a master's in early childhood special education, and I taught special ed first graders in COVID. Now, I told you my bachelor's and my master's. I have no experience whatsoever with technology, and like I figured it out. So it seems crazy that this is like a ridiculously long discussion about just, if no one has a problem with it, just do it. Because for me, the amount of times I've come and spoken to, my issue isn't with what people are saying, because what you can say, anyone can say whatever, but it's about what you do and what you don't do. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any other member of the public here to speak? No, okay, go to Nancy, then Greg, then Amy, did you have? Yep, Nancy, Greg, then Amy.
And to Ariel's point, for us as legislators, what matters, what we do is if we codify it and put it in writing and put it in a policy, and that's what we do, and that's our job, and that's what we're supposed to do. And Westchester County has video screens on either side of their dais where the public is on Zoom and interacting and talking to them. So everybody's doing it, let's be cool and do it too. Just in my search for the proposal that I put forward, I did find just this memo. I'll read the end of it. This is from 2021 that I received from the then chairperson in 2021, who stated, 2021, I plan to speak with the Putnam County ITGIS Department about the cost and feasibility of live streaming meetings of committees and/or the full legislature meetings. I will also speak with Chairman Sullivan regarding the potential discussion of this issue in the Rules Committee. So this was the Rules Committee chair in 2021. 2021, it's my point. 2021, I'll speak to IT and GIS. This is 2025.
And we've been doing it since 2024, which is good. Greg, and then Amy.
Look, I think everybody is pretty much in agreement, except we need one other stakeholder here. We really need IT. You know, we need their input at this point, because the system, unfortunately, government has so many layers, and that's one layer which we have to take into consideration. I see someone's shaking their head yes, but I'd really like to move forward on this.
Okay. Amy?
That was gonna be my comment. If you recall during COVID, when everyone was relegated to doing meetings at home and Zoom meetings were done, there were a lot of hacks. Remember during the hacks, somebody getting on there naked dancing, taking over all different types of government meetings?
Not our meetings.
No, not our meetings, we're
Okay.
talking about nationwide.
I was gonna say, that happened all the time.
We're not pay-per-view, folks, we're not pay-per-view. Okay?
Nationwide
Let's
meetings,
chill out.
people were hacked, government meetings were hacked. We have a higher level of security, and it's more than just a Zoom call and a cell phone recording the conversation. We have a higher level of security with our email system, with our IT system, with our Wi-Fi system. So it's not something that we can just sit here and put a camera on the back of a computer. We really have to go through IT, and so I will agree with Legislator Elner that this has to go to the IT department. And that being said, I have been in touch with IT a lot more now than I ever had. But we are discussing live streaming our meetings, for the next 8 weeks, but I don't know if it can be done yet. It takes manpower, it takes equipment, it takes public funding and security, so these are all things that we wanna get done. As a legislature, I see that every one of us wants to get this done, and we will get it done. And right now, we are live streaming, so I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Aaron, we'll come back to the public in a second. Aaron, then Bill, then Greg.
Is it safe to assume that before we went live with the live streaming that Commissioner Lannon, Director Lannon, I apologize. Tom set up the proper firewalls and securities to make sure we weren't going to get hacked. I'm assuming that he wouldn't leave us, again, I'm assuming, but once this went into play, and maybe Amy, you can touch more on that, I don't think we would just be left high and dry to leave ourselves vulnerable. Nassau County had a huge, cyber attack. I don't think and you know how passionate Mr. Lannon is about his protecting Putnam County. I don't think he would leave us vulnerable, especially with a new, testing, new equipment. We hear how passionate he was about the radio project and testing it and making sure that was all, in good shape. I don't see him just not doing his due diligence and throwing us out to the wolves and saying, okay, guys, you have a new YouTube channel, press play, go.
Bill, then Greg, and then we'll go back.
Thank you, Chairman. In the legislative manual, we're micromanaging so much. In the manual, we put in January that the county executive during the state of the county has to sit down and not stand up. What happens if the guy stands up and doesn't sit down? Who's gonna say, sit down? If we micromanage that kind of stuff, it will be an outrage. If we have to micromanage that much, what does it take to just, we all agree, you heard from the public, I make a motion to do it, please second it.
We're gonna get there, I promise you. Greg?
I would just like to piggyback on what Aaron said, which is right. We have the protections going out. Where the problems come in, and I'm gonna use the term half duplex, everybody can hear us. When we start going full duplex, where people on the outside can now ask questions, that's where the problems arise. And that's where IT really has to. I've spoken to them briefly about this.
Through the chair.
And the other things which being that we're government, we have record-keeping requirements. So something else which we have to consider about this is we have to say how long we're gonna keep it for and how it's accessible.
You had a follow-up on that?
Yeah, through the chair, oh goodness, I just lose my train of thought, what were you saying? Outgoing income, I hadn't proposed that in my if you had read, I'm not saying you didn't, but if you had read it, it just said that it could be something that could be discussed down the road, public participation. Have a little hand wave, and my other job, when we have teletown halls with 2,000 people on there, they pop their hand up, and we can figure that out with the click of a button. It's very easy. We don't have an IT person doing it. It's one person controlling it. So I'm just saying that, we don't have to go there. That's room for improvement. That's further down the line. So just codifying that beautiful camera and these microphones is all I'm asking for.
You've been very patient.
Do I have to get up again?
You don't have to, we can.
Okay, because there's 3 of us.
I'm not gonna make you get up.
That's why.
I'm not gonna make you get up. Go ahead.
If it's not, it seems very clear that it may not get just pushed forward to full legislature again. If not, and I just wanna know what the reason is, because then if there is a specific reason, can you make sure at the next discussion that reason is addressed and that's the final discussion?
Okay. And to be responsive to that, I'm going to task, if I may, Legislator Russo, Laura, could you give us more information about what Patterson does? Because I am, quite frankly,
I can summarize it now.
Well, I'd like her to get it officially from the town to see what kind of protocols they may have for security and things like that. Because what I'd like to know, I'm very intrigued about having public discussion, not only among the people who are here, but if Patterson is indeed doing that, and I'm not saying they're not, but they are.
Westchester is.
Westchester is, yeah, I mean, let's talk about it. If you can get us some information on that for the next meeting, that'd be great. Thank you. Of course, yeah, Dan, please.
Dan.
Yes.
We're here now. Dan, just that is awesome.
Yep.
Legislator Laura. I don't know, are we on first name? Laura.
We all are, come on.
If you could please do that, that would be awesome. But I would just like to echo Legislator Crowley's last point, which is that is not even what's being asked for in this resolution. That is a great thing to add on in the future. I echo Chairwoman Sage's concerns and Legislator Elner's concerns about security. And I promise you, as great as Putnam County's government is, no one's, I don't even know if the president has security the way the NFL does. So we can figure this out, I promise. But to Legislator Crowley's actual resolution, which just gets this codified, and the last time I spoke about this, that was the word I kept going back to, is that codification is the key here. Yes, you have all made the very true point. We are live streaming right now. We've live streamed at the full meeting. No one here seems to be antagonistic to live streaming in the future, whether or not it's codified. Totally respect that. But there is nothing to guarantee us. And that's why the amendments in our Constitution, in this manual, in the charter, all these amendments are so important, because what they do is they protect our rights and they protect what we are being given. You've now given the public live streaming. That can be taken away. You and I have had this conversation here in this room before. That can be taken away. Other people may not be as gracious as you are. So this just protects that from being taken away. So I think just what Legislator Crowley has put forth, that's an easy thing. Let's just move that forward and let Legislator Russo continue to do the great work of getting that information and continuing to inform this body on ways that it can be improved in the future. But for now, this is, what we have now works. I'm good with it. Let's move it forward.
We're all good with it. This is the public representation.
Right.
We're saying just do it.
Just do it, please.
Thank you.
Dan,
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments from anybody? Legislator, public?
Just have a comment about security, and I know those issues in the beginning with, you know, when we were live, when other organizations were live streaming and Zoom, and a lot of those have been fixed, like security measures are way far advanced than they were back then, so I don't really see that as a huge issue. Is this something that IT was expressing as an issue?
One goes two-way, yeah.
When it goes two-way?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're not talking about two-way. We have a resolution that this committee passed through this committee and presented to the full. We're not talking about two-way. You're bringing up every excuse, security, two-way, this and that. We have a resolution that you already passed through committee. Let's pass it through committee again and put it on for April 1st.
Thank you. Any other comments? No? All right, let's move on to item number...
Through the chair?
Yes, of course.
I do believe Legislator Goldman did make a motion that was not
Seconded.
resolved.
Well, it wasn't seconded.
Oh, okay, I
Yes.
didn't know if a second was
Yes.
attempted.
Well,
I think I made that motion a few times.
he did.
I think that was my...
And there was an echo each time he made it. Yes. So yes, he did make a motion, but it was not seconded. Correct.
Don't go yet, there's another item.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I do have to go. If there's one last item that you absolutely need my presence here for, I'm happy to stay for that.
Still want you to stick around.
This might be an interesting item.
Public comment.
You're making friends tonight, Bill.
Number
Yes,
6.
public comment, legality.
If we can hopefully move that.
We would love that.
Wasn't me, Conrad, just don't
I
blame me.
understand.
I'm kidding. The next item is item number 6, discussion amendment of the legislative manual, public comment during meetings. And this has been, I first joined this legislature in 2004, I was elected in 2003. And back then, it was a scandal for us to give out our minutes. They were considered by some of my colleagues to be private information. I had a website back when I was a freshman legislator, and I had the audacity to publish on that website our minutes, the private minutes of the legislature. We've come a long way since then. And my point being is that we should always, in particular when we're talking about public comment during meetings, I think it's 9:48 now, we're 3 hours and 20 minutes into this meeting. I think it's a good thing that we have public comment. I don't think anybody tonight would think that I've in any way limited that. I think it's important that we have that. When we talk about, and I think we should codify that for the committee meetings. And we're gonna open this up to discussion, I'm just not gonna pontificate, but I do want to think about, seriously, whether or not it would be practical to have public comment during our voting meetings. And the reason guys, honest and honorable people can disagree on this matter. People can hold a good and honest opinion one way or the other. I think, from my perspective, it would be better to have public comment here. This is where the committee work gets done. This is where we have our work sessions. For a town board, we'd call them a work session. I was speaking to some of my colleagues in town government, and even if you look at the state assembly, not that we're the state assembly or the Senate, and certainly not the US Senate or the US House of Representatives, when they have voting meetings, when they're on the floor.
You see them through
They're-
Livestream, right?
Well, yes, we do, yes. We can go back to item 5. You wanna go back to item 5?
I'm kidding.
Okay. You know, there's never any sort of public discussion when there's a voting meeting in the state assembly, state senate, or US House of Representatives, or US Senate. The work gets done in the committee meetings. That's where we're here for 3 hours, 4 hours a night, time well spent. And these just, I'm 1 out of 9. This is just my thought. I would be against having a comment period in our full session, because that's our voting meetings. That's where we are essentially consolidating and voting out the work that we get done during the month. And again, I think tonight's record, and I hope my whole record, has been one of public discussion and openness and candor. But that's just my thoughts. I'll throw it out there. And again, let's keep in mind, people can be honest and honorable and disagree on this. But that's just some of my thoughts. I'll open it up to the committee first. Bill, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah.
I would agree with you in concept, but that doesn't really work in the real world. Ivy Tower and real life is two different things. What you were talking about before with the 15th century, we're in the 21st century right now. So I find it a no-brainer to codify this and put it in the legislative manual for a few reasons. One reason is not everything goes to committee. We're discussing all day the legislative manual, which did not go to committee first. You put something together, we went to the reorg meeting, and it was a mess. And you put a moratorium on some items, so not everything goes to committee. If the legislative manual went to a committee, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We would have hashed it all out in January, it would have been voted on in February, and we're not kicking any cans down the road. So basically, the proposal that Aaron Crowley put together, I want to make a motion to put that through. In addition to that, I want to add the full legislative meeting in there, which you said you were opposed to. The only reason I'm doing that is because everything doesn't always, it's not, let me rephrase that. It doesn't always go through committee. It goes through the full legislative meeting sometime. So basically, if that stuff didn't go through the full legislative meeting, I would agree with you. But we have to do that because things go through the full first. And we can't have a committee, we can't have a discussion, can't have experts come in, we can't have the public speak about it before we vote on it. So I'm gonna make that motion.
Those are all fair points, Bill.
Thank you. So second it then. Don't kick the can down the road like we did the last one.
I like that we're discussing this. I want to discuss it more.
I'll make the motion again at the end.
Okay.
After you hear everybody's discussion.
Sure. Greg, do you have anything, Sam? And again, we're just to focus the conversation, we're talking about public comment.
Right, which
codifying.
public comment's always necessary, and ever since I've been on the legislature, it always happens. And it's never been limited, and I can tell you every meeting I've ever chaired, it's never limited. And just like tonight, we're here a long time. But I agree with you regarding the full, okay? The full meetings can get extremely long, and it can be unfair to people who are sitting here waiting if we're gonna have this. The work gets done in committee, and it should get done in committee. And a corollary to Bill is, I decided to make an amendment from the floor at the last full to reduce sales tax by 0.25%. And I figured, hey, we've talked about it before, we're gonna get it done, and I thought that was gonna happen. And you know something? It didn't happen. And to the best of my recollection, we probably spent close to an hour, and we put it back to committee. So that's gonna get brought up again in committee. So that's one of the reasons why, Dan, I agree with you. I think that government, I'm a private sector guy, government moves way too slow. But we've got to try and do some things to streamline it.
Legislator Sage, Amy, and then.
I would tend to agree with the chair here. We always have public comment at our committee meetings. We also have access to our department heads, and we have testimony from our legal counsel. We have personnel, we have Sarah Servitio from Social Services. We have the department heads here who can help facilitate conversation and answer questions. At the full legislature, after we've already done the committee work, we don't have access to all of the department heads. So I don't think it's practical to really have comments after each agenda item. I do, although at the full meetings, it's always good to hear from the public at the public comment section. And also just to let the public know that they have access to the legislature through email, through the phone calls, up until that meeting, up until there's somebody there to answer the phone, to voice their opinion before we get to the full vote. So I would be certainly in favor of the committee meetings, as always, since we continually do that. But the full is, the work is done, and that's what we're going to vote on, what we discuss at the committee.
Great. Erin, Bill, then Nancy, and then Tony.
So through the chair, I'm just gonna say one thing first to Chairwoman Sage. Not everything is done through committee, and so if we're going to consider this resolution with removing it from the full, then we would also have to remove putting any new business on the full, because then that wouldn't allow us to have the conversation that would allow the public to chime in on and have that full discussion, which you told me you were really in favor of. So, you know, that's really important. So if we're taking away the ability to give public comment and introducing new business at a full, that's contradictory to what you stated as the chairman of this Rules Committee, I feel. Secondly, with this resolution that I've put forward, there are several positive reasons why I think the legislator should consider codifying this. Enhanced efficiency, modifying public comment procedures can help streamline the process, allowing more time for debate, discussion, and decision-making. Clear guidelines or time limits for comments, that could be something that could be added in. The legislator can avoid delays and ensure that all necessary business is completed efficiently. Better organization, establishing structured ways for public participation can lead to better organization in the meeting, ensuring that comments are relevant, concise, and directly related to the issue at hand. This allows for more meaningful and productive interactions between lawmakers and the public. Increased transparency, modifying the comment process can help ensure the public input is heard and documented in an organized manner, which supports the transparency of the legislative activities. Citizens can use their voices being heard in an effective way, which enhances trust in government. Promoting focused discussions. By implementing clear guidelines and public comments, the legislature can avoid irrelevant or off-topic discussions. They can follow more focused, constructive feedback that directly contributes to the legislative process, helping lawmakers make better informed decisions. Fostering respectful dialogue. Establishing modified procedures can encourage respectful, orderly dialogue. By setting boundaries for the length and nature of public comment, the legislature can minimize disruptive behavior, creating a more positive and respectful atmosphere for all participants. And improving accountability. Clear and modified procedures for public comment can ensure that lawmakers can take public feedback into account when making decisions. This can improve accountability by ensuring the decision-making process is shaped by the opinions and concerns of those affected by the legislation. Citizens can see the rationales behind these decisions and track how issues evolve during hearings and sessions. This transparency is critical for building trust in the democratic process, as it minimizes the potential for backdoor deals or secretive policy making. Codifying public comment ensures that this practice becomes a permanent feature of the legislative process. It makes it easier for citizens to engage with an understanding. I appreciate you for hearing me, and I hope that somebody makes a motion tonight to move this forward.
We've got Nancy, then Tony.
I appreciate you, Legislator Goldman,
We got
or
Nancy.
Bill, because it's 10 o'clock.
We've got Nancy, Tony, then Paul, then Bill again.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'm disappointed that the resolution codifying public comment that was passed through this committee was pulled from the March full meeting. The precedent has been set by this legislature, and this legislature cannot be trusted to allow public comment on the policies you put forward. And that precedent has been set in meetings just in 2025. You've put policies forward and pushed them through at the full legislative meetings without public comment. So we know that the public doesn't always have an opportunity to speak on very important issues that affect them directly. The precedent has been set for that. So I'm in favor for allowing public comment at full meetings. I think it's crazy that we don't allow it. We're a small county. We don't have many people coming out to our meetings. It's really nice to see public participation. It's been waiting 6 years for this in the past few months. Maybe we have, our new legislators to thank for that. I'm just really happy to see all the participation. I remember being told by legislator Albano when I asked a question, a simple question during a full meeting, and I was reprimanded that this was just a voting meeting. Like, what the hell does that mean? This is a public meeting, a public body, in front of the public, and it's just a voting meeting. So we can't comment or ask questions on policies. So, no, I think the public needs to comment. I think they need to comment at the full meeting because we set the precedent. We set it so we cannot be trusted to not pass legislation without the public being heard about it.
We certainly have come a long way. I didn't know that was said. Tony?
We really haven't come a long way.
Thank you. So I just want people not to be under the impression that we're stifling anybody. Nobody's ever stifled all the years I've been here. As chair, we've always asked for the public's comment. We do. What do you mean? Never.
Guys, no
Always
cross
have.
talk, guys.
We ask legislative comment and public comment. I always do as chair. We're discussing something different tonight. We're discussing the full, correct?
Yes.
Having public
Well,
comment.
among other things. It's
You
a-
want public
a-
comment at the full?
Yeah, no.
No, the resolution
topic
I can
tonight-
give you.
Well, that's not on the agenda. What's on the agenda
Right,
tonight is generally covers speaking at these meetings, codifying speaking at these meetings.
These
and
meetings.
the full, and the full.
It
And,
says-
and, that's what I'm saying, you have both.
It says, yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Through the chair, if you'll allow me just to read the language.
Well,
That's fine.
you can, but that's not on the agenda, but.
No, that's fine, you don't have to read it, I understand.
I
We're
know
talking
that,
about
even
two,
though I asked
but we're
first.
talking, it's twofold,
Yeah,
what we're
there's
discussing.
two items we're talking
What we're
about.
discussing. So all of our meetings, all the business takes place at the committee meetings, we discuss. Now, what if we have people come to the full and they didn't come to the committee and they didn't listen to it? They're gonna come asking questions on something they don't even know. How would you do that? How would you?
Well, no crosstalk,
Right?
please, through the
Oh, I'm
chair.
sorry.
Well-
So that could be an issue. I mean, maybe they didn't watch it, maybe they look at the agenda, oh, I wanna come and talk about this. Now we're gonna have a debate, which Legislator Crowley said that's good and healthy to have debates, but I don't think we have a debate at the full meeting. If we wanna have discussions, it should be in the committee. Okay?
Thank you. Paul?
Thank you, Dan. And to be fair to you, the changes that they're talking about that came up at the full or the organizational meeting in January pertain to our legislative manual. All right, if anybody needed to have a discussion about it, it should have been among the 9 of us. It really was not something that the public needed to weigh in on. To be fair,
Well, no, I appreciate you in my corner like that, but I have become chastened about that, and I don't think that it's unreasonable for somebody to criticize me on that. I really don't think it's unreasonable. But thank you.
Nonetheless, I do agree with you that the business of this legislature gets done in the committee. Tonight's a perfect example. We had 2 agenda items that probably went an hour, at least an hour each. We do have 7 committees. Okay, so logistically, if we're gonna allow public comment at the full meeting, we're probably gonna have to start the meeting sometimes in the early afternoon. 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock. No, you're laughing, what are you laughing about?
Because I agree with you.
Guys,
Yeah.
no crosstalk.
It's something, because now we're gonna have to, logistically, we're gonna have to get the department heads in to another meeting. I mean, it's hard enough to get them, we invite them, it's hard enough to get them in, at the committee, at St. Patrick's Day, yeah. Nobody was limited in their time when they got up to speak tonight. I don't think we've ever put a time limit, other than a public hearing, have we ever put a time limit on public comment? I think it's a matter of fact at every committee meeting. The committee speaks first, then we open it up to the legislature, and then we open it up to the public. Okay, and this is because, I don't know why this has become an issue all of a sudden. We went through, last fall, we went through the budget process. $206 million budget. We had 2 public hearings. We had multiple committee meetings. You know how many members of the public showed up? 0. All right, so now this has become a thing. It's, it's certainly, we got the election season going on, and I think that's why we're hearing some of this. But logistically, I have no problem. We codify all the public hearing you want to do. I don't know how you do it at the full meeting. I think that's where we should be doing our voting. I don't think we should be having debate or public comment. And people can come to our committee meetings. If they miss it, they can watch it on TV, and then they can email us. And we get enough of those emails. We certainly hear what the public's thinking.
I'd like to go to Bill if I could, and then any legislator who hasn't spoken, and then maybe the public, and then I'll come back to Bill.
I would agree with everyone, that if everything went through committee first, we would not have to have this discussion in the full. But we all know everything doesn't go through committee first. Some things go through the full. How do you vet things? How do you get experts in? How do you get public opinion at the full? You can't. So unless we say nothing goes to the full, then I would agree with you. But I haven't heard anyone say that for, everything, well, they go to the committee. They go to committee. Nothing always goes to the committee. Some things go to the full. The resolution that, let's say Crowley put together, that was tabled, basically says approval, amendment of legislative manual, public comment during committee meetings. That's what we have right here. I make a motion that we pass this. It says committee meetings. It doesn't say full. It says committee. Since we all agree everything should go through committee first, here, committee first. It's like the second.
Just a point of clarification.
Yes.
The resolution that was pulled from the full meeting.
It's right here.
No, it's not.
This is it.
Sir.
Yes, it is. I took it offline. Yes, it is.
May I finish?
Go ahead.
Okay. It's my recollection, if I could finish, it's my recollection that the resolution that was pulled from the full meeting spoke not only to committee meetings, Bill, but to the full legislature.
No, actually, it was to the committee, and I made a motion to add the full onto it.
Well, then you were redundant, sir, because it was already before you, and I guess you didn't realize it. I'm sorry to say that. Sorry to say that.
Can you check online and see if that's?
Well, just
Through the chair.
here, in committee, cross out full then, and pass it
Through the
to.
chair, just for a matter of process,
Yeah.
I was asked after the committee meeting to revise to include the full legislative
Yes.
in there.
At the committee
So
meeting, yes.
that was the one before the full, it included full
Okay.
legislative.
So you can adopt.
Let's
you
change
can
it,
adopt
just
the
make a
first one.
motion to take the full, I'll just do committee.
I hear you. We'll go to the public, and then we'll come back to Nancy and Tony.
I made a motion. No second? Okay.
Please, Thomas.
I really, this is Money Chairman, I do really want to thank you, Legislator Birmingham, because this is the first time, and I've been to these meetings, I have written, you've all seen them, lots of emails, I don't get a reply. And I don't expect to get a reply, like this, the fact that you've made it be able to be a discussion where there's public input, and then legislators can then kind of reflect on that, and then you go back and forth. That is over and above anything I've ever seen since I've been here, since May last year.
I'm sorry.
It's the first time, so I really do want to thank you for that. But this makes it so that other people have to do that. Unless you're willing to go to every meeting and mandate that everybody run them the same way you do.
Not until I become king.
Well, and then it's a totally different scenario, and we'll probably live stream at that point.
From my throne room.
It really just, I appreciate what you're doing, and this is the most public comments I've seen on any agenda item, and the most I've seen, even like the Arts Council showing up for this. Now, there have been certain meetings where if it is not specifically on the agenda, right, specifically, or if it's removed from the agenda, you can't then comment on it. So there are a lot of different nuances to it. I really just wanted to say I appreciate what you're doing, because I have not seen this much input and discussion back and forth, and I think to codify it, to even say, okay, just at committee meetings for right now is enough, just like putting live stream and codifying that for right now, and then we'll work so people can yell from, their couches at home. We can say the legislature meetings later on. I think you don't want to make that voting process long and arduous. You've already, in theory, brought it through everywhere. But at the same time, I've seen so many times things get to full legislature without coming through committee. So if that's the case, is there a way to maybe ensure that that never happens, that it has to go through committee before it gets there? And then I'm okay with public comment, you know, in a different realm at full, as long as things have went through committee before they get to full. That's all I have to say. I do really want to thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public? Please.
All right. It's Groundhog Day all over again. Yeah, so there's been a lot of points raised tonight that I think are kind of what's at the frustration of this, and it goes back to the live streaming, you know, conversation. I've heard a few legislators mention, you know, we do this already. We're, you know, it's been 3 hours and everything else. So then what's the problem? Right? I mean, if the argument is we're gonna do this every single time and the public should not be afraid, then what is the fear of putting it into codification? And that was exactly what I brought up the last time I spoke about this. And it was that meeting that I think pushed some people maybe to get involved in campaign season. I think that's what happens. They come and see how this body operates, and they're sort of provoked to want to get involved. So I'm glad some legislators were able to recognize that. Now, I think what's interesting about this particular topic is that whether it be the full meeting, whether it be the committee meeting, as the other legislators, your colleagues, have pointed out, is if it doesn't go to committee and it goes right to the full, the public is bypassed. If it does go to the full, as this was unanimously moved to do so, you guys can just take it off the agenda altogether. And so the challenge is, why codification is so important is it protects the public's ability to have a voice in this. Yes, you get emails. Yes, you get phone calls. Nothing guarantees that you answer them or even open them. Nothing even guarantees that you pick up the phone. Nothing guarantees that any of you will even do a town hall. Nothing guarantees that you come into your communities, talk to your constituents about these issues directly, hear directly from them, understand what the constituents themselves actually care about related to these issues, so you can come and advocate on our behalf. That doesn't happen. Some of you maybe do every once in a while. I applaud legislator Goulman on his Facebook post. He asks every time, ask me questions, call the phone number. Puts out the agenda for the meeting. That's fantastic.
They don't like that sometimes. They get calls all the time.
Appreciate, you know, everybody doing that. Okay, and I would say, regarding on how this was handled tonight, I want to congratulate, but thank both legislator Elner and legislator Birmingham. There were people all night coming up here and saying a whole bunch of things that illustrated the importance of why the public needs to come to these meetings, to get educated on the way county government works, because we have people up here talking about the mechanisms of the school board. They didn't know they were talking about that. They thought they were talking to you guys about that. And I appreciate, in a very impassioned debate like was had about the Arts Council issue, both legislator Elner and legislator Birmingham could have easily inflamed that. And instead, you both took the opportunity to educate the people speaking about what the issues were. So I thank you for that. But the reality is that both of you may not be in these chairs. And I've made this point directly to you guys time and time again. This isn't about guaranteeing that the public has 6 hours to make their points. This is about making sure that nobody comes along in the future and takes that protection away from us. And right now, as it's currently constituted, they can. We can say right now that we can speak in front of the committee meetings, we can go on for hours and hours and hours, okay, and we have that ability, but right now, as it stands, the committee chairs could prevent that from happening. You may not do that, but you can. And that is the entire reason we have a country in the first place, because of what could happen. And so we made sure that we prevented some of those things from ever being able to happen. I made that point to you guys in the full legislature meeting. So I would bring that to you again. And then the biggest issue was always the challenge with government, is that if you don't codify it, if you don't protect these rights, bad actors will find loopholes. If there is a topic that comes up that is supposed to be under extreme public scrutiny, and then you say, you know what, we're going to bypass the committee on this because we don't want the public to know, we don't want the public to be involved. We're going to bypass the committee. We're going to go right to the full body. Well, now the public has been completely bypassed. And as it stands right now, at this moment, without this resolution being codified, that is a possibility should there be a bad actor or two who wants to do that. Now, I'm not accusing anyone here of doing that, and I appreciate legislator Elner, legislator Birmingham, legislator Sage. I've seen you. I've been here when you've chaired a committee meeting. You guys don't do that, and I appreciate that. This isn't about what you do. It's about what you can do, or someone who comes in after you can do in the future. Codification is about protection. Every single right we have as a public in this country was given to us because it was codified in the Constitution. That document doesn't pass without the first 10 amendments. It doesn't pass. You all know your American history. The public rights had to be protected so that loopholes could not be exploited by the government. And that's what we're talking about right here. Not saying you are doing that. I don't know any one of you to be doing that. I'm not accusing any single one person here doing that. But you could. And someone after you can. And you're right. I haven't been in on this issue for the last 20 years. But when I found out about it, yeah, I'm passionate about it. That's how it works. That's what you guys should want. We find out and then we get involved. That's what's happening. That's what we're asking. Yeah, 0 people from the public come to these public hearings maybe. I hope no one here wants that to continue. Everyone here should not want that. That's why you're here in public office. Codifying this resolution takes a next step to you all saying, we agree the public should have a voice and we should not be able to exploit any loopholes to bypass that. And as it stands right now, those loopholes exist. So all I'm asking is that you please close them. And that everyone behave in the way Legislator Elmer and Legislator Birmingham have tonight in regards to the public comments. And well, Legislator Gleason as well. But it's been a master class. I wish every committee did that. And I wish you all do it in the future. Let's guarantee it happens. Thank you.
Any other member of the public? I think we're gonna come back. Nancy and Tony, you guys had your hands up?
No.
No?
A lot's been said. I think another relevant meeting to go back to is the December Physical Services Committee meeting, where there was nobody from the public here. It was just me. There were no other legislators other than the 3 on the committee and me. And we had a proposal that was affecting the farmers. So we didn't even have a written resolution that was being forwarded and passed, unanimously passed, forwarded to the full legislature that would deeply affect farmers. The resolution hadn't even been written yet. The changes weren't even made to it. They were gonna go, the soil and water manager was gonna go back to law to figure out how to edit the draft of the resolution that he had. And the committee passed it through to the full. So it's another good point about how things are just passed through without much comment, not finalized. We don't even have a final draft before you even pass it through. And then you put it to the full and the public can't even comment on it. Not even a final draft at that December Fiscal Services Committee meeting. Do you remember that one, Legislator Elmer?
If we could address the chair, please.
Okay.
I believe that, not that it makes much of a difference, was that meeting live streamed?
Yep.
Okay.
It's there.
Okay. Any other members of the legislature on this topic? No? Yes.
I'm just gonna bring up one other thing. The term limits one was another thing that we just pushed through.
Oh, I would disagree. There were 4 meetings, committee meetings on that.
During budget season, yeah, it was rough.
Well, I'm sorry, you know, meetings did go a little long, and as a citizen, I sat through them.
Right,
Yeah.
but as a citizen, you proposed it through other legislators, but you wanted to codify things for the future.
Right.
To make sure things were safe and make sure future legislators did what was right, and that's what you said. You said you want to make sure that this is never going to be somebody sitting here and used to be inherently against term limits. And then you brought that to us, and you wanted to codify it so that nobody could ever take that away from the public.
Right, and was through 3 committee meetings, spanning about 8 weeks, during a very busy time, and I thought it was a very good thing that you guys did. I'm a little upset I wasn't able to vote on it.
Well, I
because
hope you put this back on for a vote on the next rules meeting.
Stay tuned. Bill, did you have anything for Conrad? You wanted him to stick around?
No, thank you. Thank you for staying.
Thank you for your patience, Conrad. Thank you.
Everyone.
Thanks, guys. All righty. Okay, we're about halfway through, guys. I'm kidding. We're not. We've got, the next 2 items are our litigation report. I remind my colleagues this is a confidential matter when we're done discussing the shred. Yes.
I just don't want you to skip number 9.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I skip something?
Litigation.
Settlement.
Oh, settlement, yes, okay, this is, well, it's a type of a litigation.
It's an FYI.
No,
It's an
it's
FYI.
FYI.
Yeah, it's just an FYI. The reason this does not have to be approved by us, like most litigation settlements do, is because the threshold is below $5,000, so this is strictly just an FYI. This also, though, is a confidential matter, so when we're done, just trash it in the back, shred it. The next item is item number 10, our litigation report. Again, same thing. Any comments on that? If there are, we need to go into executive session. If not, any other business? No? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye. Thank you.
Next time I'm gonna shut you down before I come to the meeting.
May I do this too?
Sorry.